Buckle up, boys. Time to go to work.
Welcome to the Dan Patrick Show.
Good or good morning.
I dropped the bombshell about 10 minutes ago. I said Ulysses S. Grant, that his middle initial was not S.
The foremost authority on phony middle names and sports.
When he applied to West Point, S was his mother's maiden name, and somehow Simpson got onto the application. When he graduated from West Point, it was on his graduation paperwork, and he just went by Ulysses S. Grant from then on.
When people call me Aloysius, I turn around.
Broadcasting from the Mercedes Man Cave.
I don't even know what your middle name is.
Aloysius!
This is Dan Patrick.
Welcome to the program. It's hour one on this Tuesday. Dan and the Danettes, Dan Patrick Show. Glad to have you on board. Stay a while if you can. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar will join us coming up a little bit later on. We'll talk about the baseball situation. Are the owners telling the truth that they're going to lose so much money if we have this reduced schedule or we don't have baseball? We'll get to the bottom of that. That'll be a little bit later on as well. If you're a smart baseball fan, you probably have ignored all the headlines about the battles between the union and the league. They're arguing over money, and they're trying to put together some sort of season. The differences in the last two proposals are pretty stark. It'll make you laugh. Players want 114 games. The owners reportedly want about 50. That's a big difference here. Maybe you split in the middle. Maybe you get to 80, 82 games. But you're also going to have the debate on the legitimacy of the season. McLevin brought this up yesterday, that if Jacob deGrom somehow wins another Cy Young and has 3 in a row, historically that puts him in some rarefied air, and people might have a problem with that. And knowing the Mets and Jacob deGrom, he might win the Cy Young by winning 7 games. I'm okay with that. I'm all right. This is an asterisk. The entire sports season has an asterisk next to it. The NBA's already played 65 out of 82 games. And some people say, well, that's not enough. Imagine 50 out of 162. Now, maybe they settle, they find a common ground here, which is usually what happens during negotiations. But I just want to watch baseball. Make sure that everybody's safe. But the numbers sometimes mean a lot more in baseball. We look at stats. We love to look at stats in baseball. That's how we evaluate guys from this generation to a prior generation. And that'll be tough to do with 50 games this year. Although I think even skeptical baseball fans can agree the number of games, any number of games, is better than the number 0. Baseball wants to expand the playoffs to 14 teams, and then they're going to let certain teams pick their opponents. This according to the New York Post on Monday. The playoffs would grow from 10 to 14 teams under the new plan. There would be 4 wild card teams in each league. That's up from 2. So here's an idea, I think, of what is going to happen, could happen. Only the division winner with the best regular season record would advance directly to the divisional series under the new plan. The 2 other division winners in wild card teams would start in a best of 3 round. The division winner with the second best record gets to choose its opponent among the 3 lowest seeded wildcard teams. The division winner with the third best record then would get to pick among the remaining 2. The selections would be made on a TV show. All right, I like it. Expand the playoffs. I'm okay with it. I think we've gotten to the point where, baseball is a little bit behind trailing the other sports when it comes to expanding the playoffs. With hockey, basketball, if you have 16 teams and then you start to go, well, are you watering it down? I think in today's sports world, certainly this year, expanding the playoffs, the problem sometimes is when you do something like this, then you rarely go back. You rarely regress. And if you want to have 14 teams, I'm fine with that. My problem with baseball has always been there are way too many games. And at the end of the season, there's so many games that don't matter because there are so many teams that are so far out of it. There's such a have and have-nots in Major League Baseball. The Orioles, it always feels like they're 25 games out and we just started July. And that's just not good for baseball. And you can't have a truncated season because of all the money that's paid. And these owners are expecting their $1 billion. They want their money. The players want their money. And fans, is the thirst still there to show up for 162 games, whether in person or watching on TV or listening on radio? And I just don't know. I don't know if that would help baseball if we knew that the games meant more. So you place a premium on the number of games, and therefore you're watching games that are truly going to matter. Instead of, 162, you put in 14 teams, so the regular season is kind of meaningless. You don't want to have a gimmicky postseason, though, because now you've defeated the purpose of 162 games. You go that far, that many games, and then you're going to do a best of 3. And that's not always fair to these teams that are great from start to finish. Some teams get hot at the very end, get in, and those are usually the most dangerous ones. But that's being proposed by Major League Baseball right now. And I do think there'll be a common ground that they can land on as far as the number of games. Baseball players want at least 100 games here. And I think the owners would probably compromise to get to 80. But I'd like to get to the bottom line here, the amount of money that the owners say they're going to be losing. Because I do think that we have ostracized the players. We're putting blame on them that, oh, they're greedy. Oh, you guys agreed to something, now you want something else here. They're the ones, they're going out into battle here. They're the gladiators. The owners are going to sit back. They don't even have to go to the game. Players are going to be out there. Pay them what you think that, that they deserve for each of those games that they play. I think you got to be fair to the players. But I do think there are going to be some players who are going to say, I'm not coming back for 50 games. And there are whispers now. I can't confirm anything, but there are whispers. There's some big names saying, if it ain't 100 games, I'm not coming back. So there's a little bit there, a little bit unrest with Major League Baseball with what's happening, but maybe some progress as we expand the playoffs, and maybe we get to a nice round number of 80. Maybe we get to 100 games, but that's going on in Major League Baseball right now. This program brought to you by Traeger. Join the Traeger hood. Taste the wood-fired difference. Contacting your local dealer or visiting TraegerGrills.com/DP show today. McLovin, what kind of poll question do you have?
Okay, I'm putting together a poll question about which sport has the best number of playoff teams. But I hate to bring this up. Did you promise us more NFL playoff teams? Whatever happened to that? Is that happening? I completely forget where we left that off.
I thought I promised that to you 4 years ago, 5 years ago.
And you know my theory that they saw you break that story, which was absolutely, and didn't want to give you the credit.
The fact that somebody in the NFL home office told me that.
It's 6 years ago tomorrow. What's the date today? Sorry, 6 years ago Friday, you reported that the league is looking at expanding the playoff system, and the next day, the NFL did an official denial to Jason Lockenfor of CBS Sports.
Yep. Yeah, that would hurt a little bit.
For the first time, it was Dan Patrick reporting.
Oh, you got full credit for your report.
Full credit.
Whilst being debunked.
Yeah, ESPN gave me full credit on that one.
That's 6 years ago Friday.
Wow. Good times. Yes, McLovin.
I had totally forgotten. We have a 17-game schedule coming. It got lost in the shuffle, so they are going to expand them now, right? I mean, I think they have to if they go.
Yes, but that was part of this, that there was always we want to get to 18 games. Want to get to 18 games. And I said, well, that means you're going to go to 17 games. And the way I like to kind of turn this in my favor, I wasn't wrong. I was just being delayed in being right.
There you go.
Yeah, something like that.
You can't be wrong if you never admit it, Dan.
Yeah. Oh, trust me, I realize that. Yeah, I kept saying, wait a minute. I just had somebody that I'll read his name in the paper sometimes telling me what was going on. And then all of a sudden, it was like, I said, hey, man, I got on good authority here. What's going on? They're going to expand the playoffs. And Paulie goes, NFL just issued a statement. And I went, okay. They're basically saying that we're not expanding the playoffs. And I went, all righty. I don't know if I got played there, but I can't understand why that would have happened that way. But maybe somebody said, I'm talking out of school a little bit, and upon further thought, we're not going to expand the playoffs. But we got 17 games, and we are going to be expanding the playoffs in the NFL. Yes, Paul.
Checking my records, you reported this in 2014. The last time we had Roger Goodell on this show was 2013.
Relaxed mood as far as half a season enough? I mean, we have, shows all the time or columns all the time, first half MVP, first half Cy Young. Do we do that? Basically calling it a half a season, but this is the MVP. People can consume this however they want to. That's why when somebody says, Barry Bonds never get in the Hall of Fame. Well, if you think he's a Hall of Famer, then who cares if he has a ceremony and a plaque? If he's a Hall of Famer, okay, fine. But it's the same thing when it comes to stats. Do I look at the stats of the steroid era differently than I do the dead ball era? Do I look at Babe Ruth because he didn't have integration differently? It's up to the individual to kind of parse this out and say, all right, that's right, they only had played 80 games that season. Okay, we've had a lot of these instances where you have a season that, it's strike shortened or a lockout, work stoppage. We'll crown a champ. If you don't want to crown him a champ, then that's up to you individually. But I'm in a benevolent mood when it comes to, you want to hand out an award? Great. Greek Freak, give him the MVP this year. Don't have a full season? I don't care. Give it to the Greek Freak. Give him Defensive Player of the Year as well. I don't care. NBA champion, whoever wins, you want to put an asterisk by? Go ahead. For me, I just want to enjoy it again. That's it. What else do you have, McLovin?
This is probably an obvious question, but do you think there will be a baseball season, yes or no?
Yes.
And actually, what do you think the audience thinks? Do you think people are taking these headlines seriously?
Well, I don't take it seriously because I know how this works. But I think that the average fan who hasn't covered a work stoppage or a strike or these kind of negotiations, certainly with Major League Baseball, might be a little more pessimistic. I choose to be optimistic because I do think that there's a lot of money at stake, and I do think that both sides want to come to some kind of agreement. The problem has been Major League Baseball has leaked all this information, and that has hurt the process here and made the players look bad. I've said that all along. I don't know if they're trying to break the union. I don't know if they're trying to get a salary cap. Like, these are real issues with players. And the big salary guys look at this because their agent is Scott Boras and saying, are they trying to cap us here? Are they trying to break us here? And I would be skeptical of the owners as well with their motives here, because I don't believe that they're going to be losing the money that they say they're going to be losing. Just don't believe it. But they don't open their books. We know how much players make. Every single player, we know how much they make. We don't know how much these teams are making. What do their books look like? And I think if there's total transparency there, this is where baseball has always had this. There's a conflict between the players and the owners. Whereas the NBA, it feels like they work in unison here. The NHL, it feels like they're working in unison here. Football's a little bit better. But it has to be a little bit better because before it wasn't good at all. But baseball, there's always been this friction. And it probably stems from Marvin Miller, when Marvin Miller, one of the smartest people that baseball has ever had, said, wait a minute here. Free agency. They should be able to go where they want to go, make what they want to make. And that changed baseball. One person changed baseball, and I think that's when you had this union that became so powerful that the owners couldn't compete because Marvin Miller was smarter than everybody else. Yeah, Paul.
Baseball players, when they can't reach a deal with a team, they go to an arbitrator, and they're presented like 3 different options, and the arbitrator, based off, state of the team and the state of the player's ability, picks, and they let the arbitrator pick it. You almost wish they could have an arbitrator, a neutral party who looks at this as a business deal and says, can we arbitrate a deal that's fair to all sides, and it's a binding decision? 75 games at this rate for this player and blah, 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 blah. It's impossible because the two sides wouldn't agree to it, but that would be perfect.
Also, don't forget that a lot of players have incentive clauses tied to where they finish in the MVP and the Cy Young. The players would not stand for this. If you're not going to have any awards, players would not stand for it because they have incentive-laden contracts here. If you finish in the top 5, if you win the MVP, I don't know if you could go, hey, but this year we're not going to do that. Yeah, McLovin.
And that gets back to the year of service, too. Like, Does Mookie get his year here? And he does, right? Isn't that part of the proposal?
Mookie Betts?
Yeah. Year of service to push him towards free agency and his big payday. But I've been reading a lot. Are those big paydays going to be there next offseason?
Well, that's another thing that the owners are going to, they're going to cry poverty here. Hey, we lost all this money here, and now here we go again. Collusion. Oh, we just don't have any money to spend on anybody here. Yeah, Todd.
money will be the overriding factor in whether they have a season or not. But how much conversation do you think there's going on behind closed doors about, guys, we got to get something going here? We've already lost fans in recent years, and we're slipping in the rundown of what the top pro sports are as far as interest. We've got to do something. Is that a big concern, or it's strictly about money?
Well, I hope it's a big concern, but I don't know. Like trying to figure out the rationale of Major League Baseball right now. Are they trying to break the union? Are they trying to embarrass the players? Are they really altruistic and they want to get the game back for the good of the game? I don't know. You'd think they would, because we can survive without baseball because of the time frame of these other sports coming back. If hockey's coming back, the NBA's coming back, and they're going right into the postseason. When that is done, we go right into NFL, we go into college football. And baseball will be an afterthought. It will. It'll be strange, but baseball will be an afterthought. We'll take a break. We'll settle on a poll question. Phone calls are always welcome, 877-3DP-SHOW. Email address, dp@danpatrick.com. Twitter handle at DP Show. We got Chat Row. Say hello to Chat Row. Tyler, the moderator, taking care of the people in the chat row. Behave. And you can watch on youtube.com/The Dan Patrick Show. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in an hour from now. Your phone calls are welcome. We'll come back right after this on The Dan Patrick Show. Discover is wanting you to discover something that's really important, and that is you can check your FICO credit score. And if you're not sure about that, that's the score used by 90% of top lenders. You're checking things all the time. This is something that is free, even if you're not a customer of Discover. Checking your score, by the way, won't hurt your credit, and you can check each month for changes there. The Discover Credit Scorecard is free for everyone. Learn more at discover.com/credit scorecard. Discover.com/credit scorecard. Limitations apply. Can we tell the story about the steam room in the sauna in Europe when you showed up naked?
I'm going to tell you something. I should have told the end game on it too, because as you know, I had Drew Esikoff, the Emmy Award-winning director of Sunday Night Football, who had worked a lot of football with me back in the day when I came over to ABC, and so he and I were doing the World League of American Football in places like Barcelona and Frankfurt. And we were at a hotel in Frankfurt, Germany, and we were poolside. It was mid-morning. We had a game that night. And he said to me, Drew said to me, I think I'm going to go down and take a sauna. And I said, gee, I wish I could do that, but I don't have my swimming suit with me. And he said, Brent, this is Europe. This is Europe, my friend. Nobody wears a swimsuit inside a sauna. I said, okay, I'll see you down. I'll finish this cup of coffee. I'll be down. So Drew proceeded to go downstairs and put on his swimsuit, as he told the crowd the other night. And, of course, I went walking down, and there were hangers there to put your clothes. And so I got undressed, went over to the sauna, opened the door, and there must have been 4 or 5 people in there, men and women, and they were all fully clad in their swimsuits. And, of course, I was totally naked as I opened the door, and I said, oh, my God, I couldn't wait. I wanted to choke him right there. So I moved over to the corner of the sauna as quickly as I could.
Wait, you stayed in there naked?
Oh, yeah. Well, no,
Brent, what if you would have said, you are looking live?
That would have been the best thing to say, but I was so mad at him. I wanted to just go, and he's up there with that Cheshire grin on his face, okay? Sitting up on the top row. Now, the kicker is I knew I was going to sit there and wait till everybody got out, and then I would leave, okay? So everybody left except this one young Asian woman who had the constitution of a marathon runner and who was stretched out and just enjoying this. I am sweating. It is pouring off me. all I'm going to do. But I do not want to get up and walk out of the sauna. She finally gets up, finally leaves. I hear the shower outside on, and I hear it turned off. I finally leave, get a shower, I can't wait to find him. I just wanted to drown him someplace. And then to kick it all off, I was later in some small town. I wasn't covering a football game. I was meeting some people, and we were at a spa, big pool area in Germany, and the sauna was upstairs. And I said to my friend, who I didn't work, I said, come on. Everybody wears swimming suits when you go inside the sauna. So now we walked into the European sauna, and everybody was nude except us when we walked in. So I haven't been able to get the European
You can't get it
saunas,
right.
But
You
no,
can't.
I just.
Eight 3DP Show. Poll questions, tweets, emails. McLevin, let's decide on a poll question.
I actually already put up.
No?
Are you okay with MLB expanding to 14 playoff teams permanently? I have a feeling most people will say yes.
But I don't know if it's permanently.
Well, they had proposed that hard before COVID. The owners were desperate to do this, apparently, and the CBA's up next year.
Well, it feels like it's inevitable, but I know that it makes sense if you're going to have a shortened season and you have more playoff games, more playoff teams. The owners want to make their money, and if you have the playoffs, they're going to make their money. That's why they want to expand this. But the players want to get the regular season money. They want to get 100 games if they can. Yes,
It feels like the more time goes on, the more sports is losing touch with what actually should mean most. In that, winning the most games over the longer period of time should be what determines the best team, not just win enough games to get to this extra special bonus period, and then you really just have to win 3 out of 5 or, 4 out of 7. It doesn't. If you're a 110 win team, you should be the best team that year in baseball. If you win the most games, you should be the best team. But now, because of the playoff system, and especially expanding the playoff system even more, that huge stretch of games becomes more and more meaningless.
Baseball's regular season, in the last 20 years, only 5 times has the team with the best regular season record gone on to win the World Series. Red Sox in 18, Cubs in 16, Red Sox in 13, Yankees 09, Red Sox in 07. Yeah, Paul.
I think what Seaton's saying is so let's say the NBA, they decide to let in San Antonio Spurs, who are 27 and 36. Spurs historically are a great franchise, but this year not. What if the Spurs somehow, some way, knock the Los Angeles Lakers out of the playoffs? A team that shouldn't be there over a team that earned the 1 seed. Now, they will have earned that win, but everyone's saying now, let's include all these teams. Let's include all these teams. We do a show the day after the Lakers get knocked out early. Everyone's going to be like, what did the NBA do putting the Lakers in a position to get knocked out early? And big teams like that.
But if you're going to have play-in games, so the Spurs have to win to even get in, or win a couple of series to get in to face the Lakers, let's say. It's not just it's going to be, Lehigh taking on Duke and they knock them off in the NCAA tournament. It's not going to be that way. You have to, and they're not going to be designated as playoff teams. You have to get into, I think, the final 16 teams to be designated a playoff team. These are play-in games just like you have March Madness. You don't make the tournament with the play-in games. You make the play-in games to get into the tournament. Yes, Eden.
But wasn't there a whole season just ahead of that was essentially play-in games? Like, I don't understand why you should be rewarded for not doing well over a longer stretch of time. Like, you lost. You lost more than most other people, but you still get in. I don't understand the point of that.
Oh, I don't want the Spurs to get in or some of these other teams. There's no, America is not going, God, I can't wait to see the Wizards or San Antonio Spurs.
I mean, why don't you just make the season one long playoff then? And then that's how you determine the winner. You get whatever the best team from last year was, they're a 1 seed, and whoever the worst team from the year before was the worst team, and then just do it that way.
Small market teams are urging the NBA to include the entire league in the restart. NBA has a plan of inviting 22 teams to restart the season in late July. Can you safely bring all 30 teams back? I guess if you're looking at the impact on money, sponsorships, tickets, developing your younger players, you want these franchises down on the totem pole to get a chance. I think that's what these small market teams are saying, their owners are saying. Teams left out of the playoffs, there's already been dialogue about the possibility of mandatory summer training camps, regional fall leagues, 4 or 5 teams that could bridge the lengthy gap between the seasons, because I don't think we're going to have basketball next season until probably around Christmas. But the message that the bigger market teams, we're going to bring them back, that's not the case. There are bigger market teams that aren't making the playoffs. I mean, the Knicks aren't making the playoffs yearly. So it's not necessarily Memphis is making the playoffs. That's a small market team. So either you want to bring everybody back. Why are you bringing everybody back? I don't want everybody in the playoffs or the possibility of getting into the playoffs. I would just have 20 teams at the most come back. You want to get Zion in there. Okay, I get it. And if we do 20, then it doesn't really look like it's the Zion clause here. Hey, if we do 18, then we get Zion in here. We do 20, and then it's like, no, this isn't about Zion Williamson. Certainly feels like it is, but I don't need that many teams. It's okay. I think this will be so fascinating. We don't have the travel part of this, the equation, and the length of time in between games in a series. Now you could play 3 games in a day, where you could start a game at 4 o'clock, 7 o'clock, and 9:30 or 10 o'clock. If you wanted to still have the West Coast teams be able to play for their time zone and their fans, you could still do this. But you would get that feel of March Madness. The NBA could do this and just have games after games. There's no travel. Give you a day off in between. You play 2 games, and then you get a day off. I think it could be great, but I don't need every team in the NBA. I understand there's money at stake here, but you've had 65 games here. That's enough. I don't think this is a participatory moment for the NBA. Have the teams. If you want to have 20 teams and 4 teams are playing each other to get in, okay. I mean, I'm fine with that. But I don't think that every team should be involved in this. Because the less teams, maybe the easier it is to have, the precautions and safeguards in place. Now I got 30. Do the math. You go from 20 to 30, and now it's a couple of hundred people there. Then the members of the media, how many members of the media get to come in? Friends, family, front office, coaches. It's a lot of people. Yeah, Paulie.
Can we take all the NBA teams that didn't make the playoffs and put them in an NCAA-style one-and-done tournament? They all face each other, bracket style, and the winner of that tournament gets the number one pick of the draft. Do that to ramp up to the regular season. Ooh. 7 days, 7 days of games, back to back to back to back.
Well, and then think about the team that finishes last place in that tournament. They end up with like the 18th pick.
That's
in the
right.
First round. Oh, brutal.
That's good. It's like a reverse relegation situation.
But then, does Klay Thompson come back?
Yes. They want the number one
on
pick.
one leg. Klay, we're going to need you. It's might be career-ending, but we need you to come back here. Yeah, Todd.
But if the best team of that group wins the number one pick, even though that'll be exciting to watch, where's the parity then? They're the team that least would need of all those crummy teams to have the number one pick.
I've always maintained, though, that once you're eliminated from the postseason, then what you do after you're eliminated, the best record among those who are eliminated or has the most wins is the team that gets the number one pick. Because I don't want tanking here. And I want you to continue to play hard and try to win after you've been eliminated from the postseason. But the NBA it feels like the NBA is pretty close here in what they want to do. Format still to be determined, but they're talking about when they could get there. How long do they need to get ready to come in and start playing meaningful games? Can you start with the NHL is starting with the playoffs, and that's aggressive. I think the NBA is trying to ease into this a little bit more if they possibly can. But that's coming from their stars because this commissioner listens to the stars. And Chris Paul has a large voice in this, a loud voice in all of this. LeBron has a loud voice in all of this. What's it going to take for you guys to get ready? Because you're selling stars here. Other sports, selling teams, you're selling stars. How long is it going to take for you guys to get ready? 2 weeks? 3 weeks? How many games? Can we have scrimmages? These are all things that are probably on the table for the NBA. But it feels like this commissioner has an idea. These are things that are just leaked out. There's other things that haven't been leaked out that might, crystallize here in the next couple of days where we really figured this out of can we get into July? We have a month to ramp up to get into July. And it feels like July is a magical month for baseball. Hockey's going to be at the end of June, it feels like. Golf is coming back in a week. We're close. What else do you have today, McLovin?
I was going to ask, which of the small market teams or the teams that are just outside do you most want to watch? Is it too obvious that there's one team that everyone wants to see who's on right now on the outside looking in?
Well, it's the Pelicans.
Are there any other teams that people are interested in, like the Spurs or maybe the Warriors? Would people want to see the Warriors try and play?
Yeah.
Kings? The Suns have a lot of young talent. They might be interesting in this tournament.
Portland?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to see Damian Lillard, CJ McCollum. I'd like to see Portland. If they're at full strength, then Portland's dangerous.
This could be a great tournament if they do this.
I saw this email that was leaked, and this was James Dolan. Now, the Knicks did not make a statement on the murder of George Floyd. Almost all the teams did. The San Antonio Spurs did not, but Greg Popovich did an interview with The Nation, and he certainly had things to say about the president and George Floyd and the handling of all these protests. James Dolan sent out an email, an internal email. Now, this was leaked, but he says, we know that some of you have asked about whether we're going to make a public statement about the killing of George Floyd by a Minneapolis police officer. I want you to know that we realize the importance of the issue. Therefore, I want you to understand our internal position here. And, he goes on to say that basically they're not going to make a statement because they don't think they're in a position to be able to comment on this. And James Dolan says the internal email is basically saying, what's important is how we operate. And as a company, we are committed to upholding our values. How we treat people, how we treat others matter. We stand by our values, respectful, peaceful workplace. We always will. I'm not saying anything about George Floyd. This is really small, probably, but if I'm a member of the New York Knicks and my owner sends out this email internally, or if I'm a free agent, when have the Knicks signed a free agent? Nobody wants to go play with the greatest basketball arena in the world. It's amazing that the Knicks get less likable. By not doing anything, they become less likable. And maybe these players, maybe there is no significance to this. If I'm an African-American, I play for the New York Knicks, and I see that my owner is really tone deaf and offers nothing, and really didn't offer anything. Whereas we've seen some teams who have had, the Washington Wizards in bold type talking about, we will not stand for this. Racial inequality, police brutality. Bold print is what they put out. And then you have this with James Dolan. It's a bad look for him. It really is. I understand you want to make sure that you take care of your workplace. This is different than just taking care of your workplace. The values and making sure we have a good environment and a good company. This is something bigger than that. And it really feels tone deaf by that owner. And if you're a player, I'd have a problem with my owner. And if you're a free agent, when's the last time the Knicks got a great free agent? Because I was under the false impression Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving were going to go into New York, and if they got Zion Williamson, they were going to change the landscape of basketball. And Kevin Durant said he never considered the New York Knicks. This used to be one of the places. Like, if you went to New York, you played for the Knicks. But when's the last time they signed a free agent? When has somebody said, I want to go to New York? You almost get the feeling I have to go to New York. I'll go there for a little while, and then I'll get out. That's a tone-deaf owner. And not just on this, on a variety of things. It's almost a tutorial on how to ruin a franchise. And he's got some competition, but James Dolan's a leader in the clubhouse. They just don't get it right. Take a break. Play of the day coming up next year. Dan Patrick Show. We were talking about best backcourts. We got on this topic, James Harden went for 54 the other night. So the backcourt combined for 90 points, but Kobe and Smush Parker have the most combined points in a game. That's when Kobe went for 81. Who's the best backcourt?
Hold on. What did Smush go for that night?
I think 12 or 13. 13. Yeah. So they combined for 94. Kobayashi had 81. But Eric Gordon and Harden combined for 90. That's the second highest point total for a backcourt in a game. Best backcourt you think of all time is who?
I would probably go with, you want to assume it's going to be Michael and whomever, or you could throw Magic and Byron Scott, I think.
I got one for you.
Oh, here's a good one. Isaiah and Joe Dumars.
Yeah, that was the one I had.
Yeah, Isaiah and Joe, I would probably go with, because both could kill you in a number of ways. On that high pick and roll. And let's not forget Joe Dumars, one of the best, before we started talking about two-way players, Joe Dumars was the definition of that. Because not only could he get you 25, 30 at one end, he was going to lock you down at the other.
Who else would be in there for greatest backcourts? Earl Monroe and Walt Frazier in New York.
Yes.
When they played together. Goodrich and West were really good. Great scores. Jerry, of course, the great all-around player. Trying to think. Steph and Clay, are they the best backcourt of all time?
Well, not of all time, but they're certainly in the conversation. They're the best backcourt in today's game, obviously. So certainly I would put them in the top 3 or 4. Yeah, I would definitely put and you got to look at the body of work. 3 championships together. Yeah, Clay and Steph are definitely there.
Parker and Ginobili?
See, but Ginobili wasn't a starter, so it's hard to put them in that category. So no, I would say no.
Okay. I'm trying to think who else might be in there.
Reggie Miller and Mark Jackson.
All right.
Just because I know Mark is probably listening somewhere.
Is Mark in the Hall of Fame?
He should be. Absolutely. You don't become the 3rd or 4th time all-time in assists and not be standing on a podium somewhere thanking people.
Yeah,
But I'm close to this situation. I've lived, obviously everything he's done, I've lived through it. So, yeah, he's a Hall of Famer in my book.
You know what? I would think that if I'm going to make a comparison, Mark Jackson's playing career is like Frank Gore, the running back.
Yes.
Really good, not the best. Put up some great numbers.
Has jumped from team to team.
Yeah.
It just wasn't with one team. The body of work, New York, Denver, obviously the Clippers, Indiana.
And I
the
think
body of work for Mark is there.
And Tom Chambers dunked on Frank Gore as well.
That's not right. That is not right.
You weren't
Theodore.
there. You weren't there. That was what,
no. He was with New York then.
Oh, okay.
And we still clown him today with that. Or was he with the Clippers? It was one of the two. But that's by far probably one of the most ugliest, sickest. That's one of those moments. You can't erase that because it was an open court. It wasn't like he went baseline and there was a lot of traffic in the lane. That was a fast break. And you just so happened to be caught on the island by yourself, MJ.
No. You know why this stands out? Because it was a white guy.
It was a white guy. I know what you're going to say. Why? Why?
It was a white guy. It was a white guy.
No.
Yeah, that's true.
No.
Yeah. If that was Sean Kemp, then it wouldn't stand out the way it did because it's Tom Chambers.
But because it's Tom Chambers. Tom Chambers had ups.
Yeah. No, he was
serious ups.
He was a great player. You never got posterized like that, did you?
Not like that. Everyone's been dunked on in the league.
I know, but not like that. Like you didn't have
not
one
like that. No. That's a sign. That is a signed poster. That keeps your name around forever because you play that highlight all the time.
But if you're Tom Jackson, could you ask Mark Jackson to sign the poster?
Absolutely. I would absolutely. Hey, I'm doing a signing up in Seattle, and I need like 200 posters signed.
Well, if I pay you, yeah, okay, I understand it.
Of the day.
Runner left side, got it! They're gonna play it and play it.
This is the play of the day.
Check this out.
A man all alone with himself, but not all alone here, as 24,000 incredibly rabid Mariner fans are looking for that final strike. That will set Mariner history. Here comes the left-hander's wind. The 0-2 pitch on the way. Swing! It's over! He has done it! High fastball, Randy Johnson being mobbed by Scott Bradley down to greet him and the entire Mariner team.
30 years ago, Randy Johnson, first career no-hitter, the Mariners' first no-hitter in franchise history. He also had that perfect game at the age of 40 against the Braves. He threw 141 pitches that day. That's an unheard of number, obviously, these days. In the last 10 years, only 2 pitchers have thrown over 140 pitches in a single game. Both no-hitters. Edwin Jackson threw 149 in 2010. Tim Lincecum through 148 in a 2013 no-hitter. That's your play of the day. Play of the day is brought to you by Traeger. Join the Traeger hood. Pick up a Traeger grill, 6-in-1 versatility. Taste the wood-fire difference by contacting your local dealer or visiting TraegerGrills.com/DP show today. I mentioned the New York Knicks, and they didn't have a statement about the murder of George Floyd. The Washington Wizards issued a statement from its players saying in capital letters, "We will no longer tolerate the assassination of people of color in this country," adding, "We will no longer accept the abuse of power from law enforcement, and we will no longer shut up and dribble." Minnesota Timberwolves shared a video showing multiple players going to demonstrations. The Knicks representatives didn't respond to a request for comment on this. The Knicks' crosstown rival, the Nets, released a statement on the same day talking about and condemning what happened to George Floyd and others. The Toronto Raptors had a statement. I mean, it goes on and on. Michael Jordan had a statement with the Charlotte Hornets, but the Knicks did not have a statement there. And I was looking at, this is a once great, proud franchise, is nowhere near that. And I was wondering about their free agency because Kevin Durant had an opportunity with Kyrie Irving to go in there and bring the Knicks back, and they chose not to. I don't know how much that had to do with that ownership. It would have an impact on me if I was signing with them, no matter what I'm getting paid. But you go back to 1996, Chris Childs and Allen Houston, those were good signings. Kurt Thomas was a good signing. Jason Kidd, they had him. He was 40 years of age. J.R. Smith, all right, he was okay. But they've signed Larry Brown, the coach, 5 years, $50 million. That's not good. Clarence Weatherspoon, Jerome James, Jared Jeffries, Amari Stoudemire, 5 years, $100 million. Robin Lopez, 3 for $60. Joakim Noah, 4 for $72 million. Tim Hardaway Jr. III, 4 for $71 million. Yeah. There's a reason why they're not very good. It starts at the top and works its way down. Seton O'Connor has a big grin on his face.
Segue?
Yes. Make your own segue there for me, going from the Knicks to Seton.
Just 4 years ago today, an absolutely classic, iconic moment in show history.
Let's see if we can guess.
4 years ago today.
June of 16.
Correct. Classic.
Well, do you have anything more than that?
Oh man, it changed the course of show history forever. We were pre this moment, and then we were post this moment. At least in my life. Doesn't have much to do with me. Andrew, you got a guess?
Is that McLovin?
It was June 2nd, 2016.
McLovin didn't fall off his chair that day, did he?
He may have, but that's not the moment that I'm referring to.
Can you tell me which Danette?
I can't.
Okay. All right, tell me.
Andrew, you want to guess?
No, I thought you might be talking about the sausage race, but I'm way off.
On the
Forget it.
blackboard, it's really, really good. That's called a
chalk off.
That's right.
Oh,
Ratio and turf, the running back there would have
a falk off. Let's be careful here.
I know, with caulk and falk.
Yeah.
We're really treading.
Oh, no, Fritzy.
I was going to say, if we're having a contest, who could eat the most sausages, that would be a...
Sausage off.
The judges were looking for pork off. Pork off. If you come to a spot in the road and you pick the right road to go down, that would be a
fork
off. A fork off. There you go.
Just don't rhyme.
But you realize that none of those rhyme with the jokes that we've been making.
You just had to get in the conversation, didn't you?
A sausage off?
I thought we were going with walk off, talk off, and that's why I did pork off and fork off.
You should actually
That's the
change
key
it.
moment. Pork
off.
Pork off and...
That's where you just don't take your losses, do you? You try to talk yourself in or out of something.
I really did. I refuse to admit that those don't exactly rhyme.
Pork off. Pork off. What? It was just like the question mark last week. When you inserted a question mark into a headline, you changed an article. And then I said, you can't send that to me without telling me you put the question mark in there.
Bad journalism.
Thank you, Todd.
The best part, though, is Paul has two great moments in there. One, obviously, he's the person who actually says, sausage off.
Now,
And then-
just to clarify that, I knew what Fritzy was getting at, but I couldn't believe he was going there. I was like, well, then it's sausage off?
I was going to say, and then
Hawk.
Todd says it, and then Paul goes, oh.
And then my voice got all higher pitched, like I was just going to give my opinion, like I'm supposed to.
You tried to talk yourself out of it.
I felt very
Or
left
into
out,
it.
and I thought I had something there. And at least it's show history. Contest: who could eat the most sausages? That would be a.
Sausage off.
The judges were looking for pork off. Pork off. If you come to a spot.
Oh.
I sound like David Spade there. Spade does that whenever like you make a joke. He just goes,
Oh.
Pork off.
Hawk.
It's the best.
Hawk off.
Well, I'll never forget.
And then you come to the fork in the road? Falk? What'd you call that? Falk
I
off?
called it like a Marshall Falk off.
Falk.
Falk off.
But in retrospect, I sure am glad he spoke up. And from a content standpoint, as a producer, Todd, never stop. For God's sake.
And then we came up with sausage off T-shirts there. Good, Todd.
That's it.
Pork off. You know how Eminem will take a word and then he'll kind of make it into what he wants it to be so it rhymes? But he's a professional at doing that.
He is a professional.
Yeah,
I'm not even an amateur.
No,
I have several steps away from just amateur status.
Oh, that was good. Pork off. Pork off.
But depending on the accent around the country, there may be some.
No, Todd, no.
Definitely not.
That's where you just take a 20.
He's going regionalism on us.
Next time I feel.
Actually, there is a
in New Orleans.
But you guys have to stop. Next time I feel the urge to say I was going to say, that's when you guys have to jump in and go, no, you're not going to say. It's really on you.
It's on us.
Oh, you're
poor editing by you guys.
Now
you
you're blaming us
I can't shut
for
myself
what
up.
you
You guys got to
say.
jump in.
How about I just turn off your microphone?
You could do that too.
Yeah. All right, 1 hour in the books. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar will join us in about 20 minutes from now here on the Dan Patrick Show. I had to fly to Orlando, and I forgot my wallet. So I have it's one of those where I'm going to put my wallet in a safe place so I don't forget it, and then I forgot it because it was in a safe place. And I remember leaving, and I got to the airport, and I took out my registration from my car, and I was trying to find anything that had my picture on it from the show, like whatever, you have to show some kind of ID. Well, they let me through, but they pat you down twice. Like I got extra care. I got a massage is what I got. But they check your luggage, everything. They really thorough, but they did let me. I'd like to thank the great folks at JetBlue. They were very, very accommodating. Yes, Paul.
Did you get recognized being Dan Patrick, or did you have to sell yourself that you are a person who's recognizable?
I said, are there any men who could help me? Because there was a female who was helping me. By the way, she was unbelievably sweet and accommodating. But I'm thinking, I get the guy going, hey, Sports Center dude. I'm like, I don't have my driver's license.
Jim Lampley's going through security.
Yeah. Well, the problem also is, as I'm coming back from Orlando, and it's packed, parents and kids, and there I am. They always say, do you want to go in a back room? I'm like, no, I don't want to go in a back room. Just do it here. Well, they give me the once over, and then they do it again. And so I'm just there with my hands up, and then you get these dads are just like pointing, and I'm assuming somebody got it on their cell. I'm just waiting for that video to surface where I'm there, and I just start smiling because I don't know what to do. And the guy goes, all right, this is what I'm going to do with my hand and inner thigh, and then over the front, and then the back. And I said, just go to town. Go get it. And so... And then you got to be careful. So the woman goes, do you have any other shoes? And I go, no, because I had my shoes on, and I took them off. She goes, you got another pair of shoes? I go, no. And then she goes into my luggage. She goes, I thought you said you didn't have another pair of shoes. I said, these are the ones I have right now. I didn't know you meant in my luggage. Not good. But I got through, obviously. Yes, Fritz.
And airport security has no sense of humor these days. You couldn't say something like, you can't stop me, or you can only help to contain me as you try to sneak through. They won't put up with that.
Yeah, that's humbling. Have you guys ever done the search in the back room?
Ben searched?
Yeah. Seton, you've done back room search?
I have, yeah. Yeah, he got pulled right out of line, and they were like, yeah, we do it to like every 10th person.
But could you have been searched right there on the spot?
No, I don't think so. It was me and somebody else, and they were like, well, you got to come back here, and they brought me through like a little side door, went right through everything, and then let us back in line.
Yeah,
and brought us like right to the front of the line.
Okay. I didn't do the back room.
It wasn't that bad. It really wasn't.
Yeah, mine was a little awkward. Yeah, Fritzy.
I actually request the backroom search. If I'm not in a rush to catch my flight and I got there early enough, I don't mind.
Buckle up, boys. Time to go to work.
Welcome to the Dan Patrick Show.
Good or good morning.
I dropped the bombshell about 10 minutes ago. I said Ulysses S. Grant, that his middle initial was not S.
The foremost authority on phony middle names and sports.
When he applied to West Point, S was his mother's maiden name, and somehow Simpson got onto the application. When he graduated from West Point, it was on his graduation paperwork, and he just went by Ulysses S. Grant from then on.
When people call me Aloysius, I turn around.
Broadcasting from the Mercedes Man Cave.
I don't even know what your middle name is.
Aloysius!
This is Dan Patrick.
Welcome to Hour 2 on this Tuesday, Dan and the Danettes. Dan Patrick Show. The great Kareem Abdul-Jabbar will join us. He wrote a very powerful op-ed piece for the LA Times. We'll talk to Kareem about how we move past this. How do we make this better? Inclusion. What roles do we play? Just saw that Wes Unseld passed away. Longtime NBA player, coach, executive, basketball Hall of Famer, passed away. Wes Unseld was one of those rare players that was probably maybe 6'7", and he played center. But it felt like he was as tall as he was that wide. But he wasn't a great leaper. He was just, he knew how to rebound, take up space, and he was a great player. Wes Unseld in the outlet pass is what people always talked about. But Wes played for the Bullets, long time with the Bullets. And I believe he won an NBA title. I think he was there when the Bullets won a title. But Wes Unseld has passed away, a Hall of Famer. You see some of these guys and you wonder how basketball is full of players that you go, it just doesn't make sense. And Wes Unseld was one of those guys. Paul Silas, who played for the Celtics. These guys were about 6'7", 6'8". They didn't jump, but they were unbelievable rebounds. I got Wes Unseld 6'7", probably 260. And he was every bit that. And he was just this block that was there. And from Louisville. Yeah, Paulie.
Yeah, the 77-78 Bullets won the finals 4-3 over the Supersonics. And as Wes Unseld, he was deep into his career at that point.
Okay. Yeah, they had Elvin Hayes and Kevin Greavy, Bobby Dandridge on that team, Phil Chenier. That was a fun team back then. But how old was Wes Unseld? I just saw the tweet from his family.
74.
74.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, a lot of times you don't see these players. They're not. They weren't in the TV era. There's guys that missed the TV era, and I wonder how their careers would have been different if you got to see them play. Now, West wasn't an exciting player. West was just one of those guys that was there every single night, and he did what you wanted him to do, what you needed him to do. He was a great rebounder, and trying to think some of the other play. Elvin Hayes' teammate was another guy who missed out on the TV era. Like, he benefited from the game where he beat Lou Alcindor and UCLA, and he had this unbelievable performance. He was on the cover of Sports Illustrated. But the Big E, Elvin Hayes was a wonderful player, Hall of Famer. And but if you didn't get to the 80s when Magic and Larry came in, that feels like that's the black and white era of TV where you're watching and you're going, that's completely different than what we were seeing when Bird and Magic came into the league. But Wes Unseld passing away. Yes, Paulie?
Yeah, you're right. Guys like Elvin Hayes in 1975 were averaging 24 and 15. And 5 years later, they're at the downside of their career, and that's when the TV era started.
We'll talk to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. He'll join us coming up. We got a poll question, McLevin?
Yeah, are you okay with permanently expanding MLB playoffs to 14 games? 58% say no.
Oh, they don't want expansion here.
Can I tell you why I'm for it?
Okay.
Because I feel like July 1st, 60% of the league says, we're done for the season. We're going to trade all our players. Like, everybody tanks. Every season is just like half the league just sloughs off around the All-Star break.
Yeah.
Now everyone will be in play.
I'm okay with it this year. I want to see how it feels where you're going to have more playoff teams in Major League Baseball. At this point, we're not going to have more games, regular season games. I'm okay with more postseason games. But what happens is once you do it, it's rare when you go back and say we're going to table that. It feels like from 10 to 14, you're adding revenue in the postseason, which is good for the owners. Therefore, this is what they would want. What do the players get out of this? How about we get baseball back on the field? How about we do that? I'm okay with that. I'll take 10 playoff teams. I don't need 14. Got some notes here. Wes Unseld is the Bullets, Wizards all-time franchise leader in regular season games and postseason games as well. But I don't know. I know Kareem played against Wes Unseld, but I don't know if there's a shorter center in the Hall of Fame than Wes Unseld, because he was 6'7". People always say, "Oh, is Barkley really under 6'5"?" And I go, "Yeah, no, he can't be. The way he played, he's one of those guys that defies logic. Steph Curry defies logic. There's certain players where you go, that just doesn't make sense." And Wes Unseld was one of those players. You just watched him and he doesn't jump, but he gets all the rebounds. Moses Malone was another guy. I never thought he was that athletic. I just thought he was unbelievable on the offensive and defensive glass. Unbelievable. Never stopped. Like, you think Rodman's a great rebounder? Moses Malone would also get you 25 a night to go along with those rebounds. I saw this story, and it was a column written Saturday by a former NFL executive and a current CNN political analyst, Joe Lockhart. He said that the league attempted to convince teams to sign Colin Kaepernick in 2017 and 2018. He felt that they had done a righteous job. Based on the events in Minnesota this week, Lockhart now realizes how wrong he was. In attempt to right a wrong, Lockhart believes the Minnesota Vikings should sign Kaepernick to a contract, give him a legitimate chance to compete for the backup quarterbacking spot in training camp. Lockhart writes, the situation in Minnesota right now offers a unique opportunity to deal with the symbols of racial injustice. As a small but important step, the owners of the Minnesota Vikings, Ziggy and Mark Wilf, can send a strong message by offering Colin Kaepernick a contract to play with the Vikings. Bring him into camp, treat him like any of the other players, given a chance to play the game they love. Wow. Joe, do you realize what this sounds like? Hey, Colin, come on in. Can you help us? Like, we screwed this up. Can you make good for this? This will make the murder of George Floyd go away. Like, wow, that's really nice. The Vikings. Now you're saying that they should bring him in. Do they want to bring him in? How about 3 weeks ago? Should you have brought him in 3 weeks ago? How about a month ago? How about a year ago? How about 2 years ago? Hey, come on in. Hey, Colin Kaepernick, can you come in and help us out here? Lockhart goes on to write, it will not solve the problem of blacks and police violence, but it will recognize the problem that Kaepernick powerfully raised and perhaps show that with courage, real progress can be made. This isn't progress. You blackballed him. He hasn't played since 2016. And he did have a peaceful protest, and that wasn't good enough, remember? Remember the NFL, the owners, president, vice president? That was a peaceful protest about what happened in Minneapolis. Now, if you said to me, Colin Kaepernick has a legitimate chance to beat out Kirk Cousins, fine. But don't bring him in and just say, hey, we fixed that. All good now. You settled a collusion suit because the owners conspired to keep Colin Kaepernick out of the NFL because he was bad for business. This is a PR move. This is horrible. It's embarrassing. Hey, come on in and we'll give you a legitimate chance to start. What does that mean? And would you give him a legitimate chance? And why the Vikings? Just because if George Floyd had died and been murdered in Dallas, would you say to Jerry Jones, hey, Jerry, you should bring him in here. This could help things out. If it happened in Cincinnati, if it happened in Cleveland, Los Angeles. Hey, it happened in Minnesota. Hey, I know. This will help things. No, it won't. And Colin Kaepernick is not playing in the NFL again. I said it at the time. He's not coming back because I know these owners, that they viewed him as bad for business. We can't have this on our sidelines. But he did protest, and it was nonviolent protest. He took a knee. How symbolic. He took a knee. But to say we're going to give him a chance and now he gets to come back, are you really giving him a chance? It feels like this is something the NFL would do. Hey, guys, come on, this would be a really good PR moment here. Colin Kaepernick gets to come back. If I'm Kaepernick is so much more powerful now than he would be if he came back and played football. Because you keep looking at this, and even more so today, we're looking at Kaepernick and saying, see, this is what he was talking about. And I've heard from everybody. I know people get riled up, and this is about the flag, and this. No, it's not about the flag. This is about the moment where people can see what I'm doing. The moment that everybody is watching, I'm taking a knee. I want people to understand why I'm taking a knee, to ask questions. I'm looking for social reform. I'm looking for this, somebody to correct an injustice. That's what he was saying. Now, I don't agree with all the things that Kaepernick did or how he did it. When he had a T-shirt that, he was Talking about Fidel Castro. I had a problem with that. Cops as pigs. I had a problem with that. Because there's so many wonderful people who are in, the police departments, the police force. Another thing that happened, and this is an aside to everything that's been going on, all of the goodwill that the first responders build up in America, and that includes the police, through all of this with the coronavirus, with the pandemic, it feels like that's all washed away. That we somehow forget about all of those things, all of those great people on the front lines who do things, who do it the right way every single day. And those people shouldn't be forgotten. We shouldn't look at them and look at them in a suspicious way. We shouldn't. I know people will, but we shouldn't, because there are great people who do this. And I think that we're going to move past that, unfortunately, and forget what they were doing when there were lives on the line and they were serving our country. But the Colin Kaepernick thing, I was reading it and I just went, that's tone deaf on Joe Lockhart's part. It's a PR move, and that'll make everything better. Because if this is in another city, are you asking Jerry Jones to bring him in? You're going to ask him to come in Minnesota because it happened in Minneapolis. To me, that's pretty hollow. All right, 877-3DP-SHOW, email address dp@danpatrick.com. Anything else that needs to be mentioned? Did we update the poll results there, McLovin?
Yeah, people do not want to expand the MLB playoffs permanently.
Okay. What time is Kareem going to join us there, Fritzy?
Kareem just checked in. He's in our Zoom waiting room for whenever we want to go to Kareem.
All right. We'll take a break. And look, I know part of this is to make you feel uncomfortable. I mean, that's really what this is all about. When people speak up, does it make you feel uncomfortable? Because it should. We tend to socialize with people who think the way we think. But sometimes having that person tell you something that makes you a little uncomfortable or makes you question or makes you, curious about something. And look, how would Jackie Robinson do today? How would Muhammad Ali do today? The Olympians, Tommy Smith and John Carlos, how would they do today? Social causes. Michael Jordan, famously apolitical. Ali's death, it felt like spurred a new generation of athletes to embrace activism, when you think about it. I think there was a whole new generation that went, wow, what just happened? And I think a lot of these athletes only saw Muhammad Ali as maybe somebody in the throes of Parkinson's, maybe at the Olympics, lighting the torch, and maybe in the ring. But what he did outside the ring, when he lost his heavyweight title, took it away. But the reaction of his death, and I remember we talked about it, his legacy might be what he did to a new generation. It was 4 years ago tomorrow that Muhammad Ali passed away. Now, have we made progress? You probably argue that we haven't. Have we made progress from athletes, celebrities standing up, saying something, being on the front lines, not worried about being criticized? I think we have. I applaud LeBron James, Tom Brady, but while I applaud them, this is what they should do. They're people, not just athletes. And if Tiger Woods doesn't want to say anything or Michael Jordan doesn't want to say anything, that's up to them. But those who do speak up, I think a lot of that is because Muhammad Ali stood up for things. He fought against things. And I can't help but wonder, what would he say today? How would he say something today if he, in his prime, was Muhammad Ali? What would Jackie Robinson say? But it's not incumbent upon black athletes to be the ones who speak. It's all of us who should be speaking. The great Kareem Abdul-Jabbar will join us coming up next, 17 after the hour. Take a break. Back after this on the Dan Patrick Show. Should I discover again?
I think you should.
Okay. Well, you know what? I've taken it for granted that everybody takes me up on this offer. Discover makes it quick and easy. Best of all, it's free to check your credit score. You can check your FICO credit score That's used by 90% of top lenders for free, even if you're not a customer. Checking your score won't hurt your credit, and you can check each month for changes. The Discover Credit Scorecard is free for everyone. Learn more at discover.com/credit scorecard. Discover.com/credit scorecard. George Gervin was on the show a couple of years ago, and I said, who was the guy that you saw that game and you knew you couldn't wait to get to the arena because that guy was guarding you? And he said, Kevin Greavy. And he said it in a way, he goes, Kevin Greavy. Like he knew he was putting up 40 on Kevin Greavy. Who was the guy that you knew you were going to have you couldn't wait to face?
You know, I will tell you this. I hated Kevin McHale because he's the best player I ever played against. He was one guy who was so much bigger than me with his long arms and his great moves. I had a difficult time guarding him. And then on the other end, he was so long. He was so long. It was tough for me to get my shot off if I had to face him up.
But who was easy? Who was the guy you went, I'm putting up a big number tonight?
You know, Dan, I'll be honest with you, I ain't going to lie. I felt like that against everybody. But I'll tell you the one guy I hated. The one guy who kicked my butt all the time was Popeye Jones. I used to hate that dude. And I have no idea why. I have no idea why, because he wasn't very athletic. But for some reason, he knew all the little tricks, and he drove me crazy when I played against him. He kicked my butt more probably than any player that I played against.
Well, you probably wanted Bird to guard you, didn't you?
Oh, Larry Bird didn't want any of this. Come on, brother. Hey, he's Larry Legend, but not on the defensive end.
You probably didn't want any piece of that off, with his offense, though.
He was great. But like I say, in my day, it was a challenge to play against him. Nobody's going to stop a great player.
Yeah.
But listen, I'd rather play against him than Kevin McHale. Because Kevin was just so much bigger than me with those long arms. And Kevin, to this day, other than Tim Duncan, had the best low post moves of any power forward to ever play the game. It was a lot easier for me to guard Larry Bird because they had to set picks and things for him. Because he would never stop moving. But he wasn't, Larry, as great as he was, now he wasn't one of those guys say, hey, here's the ball, score. And those are the guys that's a nightmare. Like James Harden, you're like, hey, here's the ball, score. And everybody know he's going to get it, and he still can score, get a good shot. But Larry wasn't like that. He'd be moving all around. You turn your head for a second, and he's over there in that corner. He done ran off 2 picks off McHale and Paris pick, and he's in the other corner. You turned your head for a split second. He reminded me of Reggie Miller, who never stopped moving, Ray Allen, Klay Thompson's like that, guys who never stop moving. Those are the tough guys because, they always say you're supposed to keep one eye on your man in the ball. I'm like, well, first of all, that's not possible all the time. You got to turn your head for a split second. And when you look around, your man's in the other corner. It's not a comfortable feeling.
All right, so joined by royalty here on our driving range here. Sir Nick Faldo is here to assess. It's early.
This is my first golf lane ever at 6:32. I normally don't start till 6:45.
All right, so go assess what you see here, Nick.
Assess what I see.
Yes.
Or maybe I don't.
Put on your CBS hat.
I got my CBS hat on.
Yeah.
Some kind of hat on.
Yeah.
So apart from the grip and the stance and the rubber boots.
Okay. All right. That's not bad.
That's a good little shot.
All right.
Right.
See?
Is that your one go?
That's it.
Just next swing, slow it down to a blur, okay? Jeez.
Oh.
What's wrong with the behind the lines? What the tee markers? These beautiful tee markers. Come on.
There we go.
Let's play by the rules.
Such a stickler.
Such a stickler for the damn rules of this game. Beautiful grip, beautiful waggle. Shame is about his kiss his knees. Jeez.
Kiss my knees?
Yeah. Right. Kiss your knees on your backswing. You're down. Look. Try not to kiss your knees.
Don't kiss your knees. First of all,
Hey, we got the same PJs.
Yeah. I wore these for you.
I just got out of mine.
Take a three.
Now, Nick, you might want to look the other way for this.
Okay, Paulie, step back.
Obviously.
Oh, yeah.
Whoa, this is a grip and a half. Go on, squeeze the blood out of that grip. Go on, squeeze it. Go on, kill it. It's like a snake. Whoa!
He was not kidding.
That's not going to make the cut.
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, obviously one of the great players of all time, four-time award-winning columnist and writes regularly for publications including The Hollywood Reporter, The Guardian, and LA Times. His new technology service offers direct custom video messaging. Also check out iconomy.com, which helps pro athletes create brand equity and expand their legacy beyond sports to support themselves after retirement. Kareem joins us this morning. Good morning, Kareem. How are you?
I'm doing well, Dan. Everything's okay.
I don't know if you saw this. I hate to bring it up to you now. Wes Unseld passed away. I know that.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
No, I didn't. I'm sorry to hear that. Wow.
And I was trying to tell people how unique Wes Unseld was. You know, he missed out on the TV era, but it felt like he was 6'7", about 250 or 260.
Yeah, you had to go around him. I mean, or sometimes you get lucky, you could reach over him and get a rebound. But Wes was great at he could keep you away from a certain area, and the rebound could bounce off the floor and he'd pick it up. Because you couldn't get to that position on the court. He learned how to use his bulk and size to give himself a rebounding space, and he was very effective at it.
Yeah, he was one of those guys who defied logic. He was like Paul Silas. They weren't great leapers, but it felt like they were getting every rebound, and he played on that great Bullets team with Elvin Hayes and Phil Chenier that won a title.
Yeah.
I love the op-ed in the LA Times. Obviously very powerful, but I've come to expect that from you. Take us back to late 60s. Like, are we any better, any different now, improved in handling, these situations?
Well, I think we've been through the ups and downs of it. We've seen the progress and then the backsliding that has occurred since the heyday of the civil rights movement. I remember when between my junior and senior year in high school, a young man, James Powell, got killed on the streets of New York by a police officer, and Harlem broke out in about 2 or 3 days of riots. So that was 56 years ago. So none of this is new. It's happened too many times before, and we have to do something to get to a point where this is not where it doesn't happen like it does. It just seems to play into a really bad situation every time. So we've got to learn how to deal with that.
But I wonder about everybody's role in this, because it feels like if something happens, we tend to put this on the black community to say, hey, this is on you, when it's really on the white community to understand this. Or how do we advance this if you were going to speak to an audience?
I would have to say that when it's easy to dismiss somebody's humanity and the fact that they are a person with rights and expectations that we should mutually respect, when that goes out the window, all of these abuses they just become commonplace. And the whole idea that a segment of society is considered not worthy or not equal is going to lead to what we have seen happen.
And you start to wonder about, we've had these great leaders like Dr. King, or if Muhammad Ali was still alive. Like, I wonder about just these individuals and what they meant to history. How do you think Dr. King would view what happened in Minneapolis?
Well, he would see it in conjunction with all of the other lynchings and murders of black people that happened prior to that. It's not an uncommon story. It's too commonplace. That I think that's why we don't do anything to change it, because we've accepted it for so long.
I also worry, though, that we move on so quickly, Kareem, when something happens and then we're outraged, and then this will go away. This will dissipate. We've seen this before.
And then the next outrage will get everybody excited for a little while, and then they'll forget about it because we've accepted it for so long. It's just the way that we do business, and we can't do it like that anymore. There has to be some type of change. And what it's all about, I think, at this point is we have to find some means to deal with bad cops. Bad cops make it bad for good cops. They make it bad for citizens of color, poor people. The bad cops are able to just do what they want in those situations. So, when we get to the point where that's not a problem, I think we will have made a lot of progress.
You were one of the more famous teenagers in the United States when you were playing at Power Memorial. Did you have any run-ins with the police?
Of course. And I've had a gun pulled on me for being tall and dark. That was it.
Really?
Yeah. And one time, one of my sons was bringing one of my other sons home, and the police stopped him. They wanted to know what he was doing driving around in an expensive car, and they thought that was suspicious, and they jacked him up. It happens. It's part of our culture, and it's part of how we see things, and we've got to change that.
I thought the mayor of Atlanta had powerful words when she just said, this is like, I can't send my son out to do a piece. I can't send you out. I can't protect you. And I don't know how helpless that may feel for you, that, you worry about your kids. And
you worry about your kids, and you want to protect them, and you want them to have an idea of how to conduct themselves so they won't be in any danger. And for Black kids, that's a very iffy situation.
We're talking to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Muhammad Ali died 4 years ago yesterday. Remember the first time you met him?
Yes, I do. Yeah. I was just walking down Sunset, and Muhammad Ali was out there doing magic tricks for people that were just walking by. And I was like, what? That's Muhammad Ali. And I was with two friends of mine, and we stopped and watched him for about 10 or 15 minutes and then kept going. And then a couple of weeks later, I went to a party. It was during my freshman year at UCLA. I went to a party, and he was there, and I got to meet him, and we just clicked. He was a great guy.
Wait, I don't know what's stranger, you walking on Sunset or Ali doing magic tricks on Sunset, Kareem.
Well, that's how it was it was 1966, spring of 1966. I remember. Yeah. What
don't I know about him?
That he was a really funny guy. He was a practical joker. He liked to pull jokes on people and mystify them with some of his magic abilities. He tried magic tricks for a long time because he just liked to make people go, wow, what was that?
But then he could get into the ring and be so violent. Like he was such a playful man. But then you turn it on and turn it off. We saw that with the Jordan documentary. Mike doesn't turn it on and off. It's always on.
It's always on, yeah. But, Muhammad Ali would, he was like your cousin, you had to love him, because he was a really congenial guy, and he loved people.
I wonder about his impact, because I've maintained, I think Jackie Robinson is probably the greatest athlete of all time, because baseball, basketball, football, track and field, he became a Hall of Famer when people didn't want him to succeed, what he went through to do that. And then there's Ali's place in history. I don't know if you can categorize that, but the impact of Ali, and I said this when he died, Kareem, 4 years ago, he's leaving a legacy of athletes who are willing to step up now. I think because they saw who he was when they saw all these testimonials, these tributes to Ali when he died, that you had LeBron and Chris Paul and Dwayne Wade and guys who are willing to put themselves out there. That's a powerful legacy that Ali left.
Yeah, black athletes really, for black kids, black athletes are the principal role models, and black kids get a lot of positive direction from black athletes. I know I did when Jackie was playing for the Dodgers. I was a serious Dodger fan. He just that kind of charisma really has an effect.
And he never let it boil over, though. How do you think Jackie Robinson compartmentalized this with everything that he was going? I mean, I'm sure internally, but he sort of maintained his dignity.
Yeah, and it was so hard to do at that time because people wanted to test him. But he had the right disposition, and he was definitely equipped. He was a pretty tough guy. A lot of those guys in the majors, he would offer to meet them under the stands, and if they wanted to settle it that way, we'll stick to baseball.
When's the last time you shot a sky hook?
Geez, I can't remember. While I was coaching, and working with Andrew Bynum, I had to demonstrate stuff, so I got back in some kind of shape at that point. But that's long ago and far away now.
Do you care about any of these lists, Kareem, where ESPN had the greatest college basketball player of all time poll, and I railed because you weren't you're the greatest college basketball player of all time. I was mad. I was probably madder than you would ever be, I'm guessing, but Jordan was the greatest college basketball player of all time. Just help me here. If you don't care about it, then I won't care about it.
It's not important to me because the people that would vote for Michael Jordan that don't have the perspective. They didn't see me play. I wish they had seen Oscar play. They really changed their mind about that. Michael wasn't anywhere near the college player that Oscar was. It all depends on your perspective, and when you understand that, you can see where someone would say that because Michael's style was so charismatic. People think that does it. But style and effect are two different things.
But we look at Michael and we go, well, he won 6 titles, he didn't lose. Bill Russell won 11. He didn't lose. Like I don't. How do you decide?
You can't. And people who didn't see Bill Russell play have no idea. What he did. He stifled the whole league for 11 world championships. Michael Jordan had 6. There's no comparison, but people don't understand what's being compared. So that's why they get it wrong. So.
You just missed out on Russell?
My first year in the league was his first year in retirement.
But I saw you against Wilt, and that was supposed to be this big showdown. Oh, let's see how Lou Alcindor is going to do against the great Wilt Chamberlain. What do you remember about that first meeting?
First meeting, I didn't do too good, and everyone after that, I did very well. By my third year in the league, I was wearing Wilt out, and he retired.
Yeah, and that's another thing that Wilt, he's a statistical anomaly. Yeah. He's not included in the greatest player of all time, it feels like, because we go, well, that's Wilt, and, the NBA was different back then.
Yeah, it was different, but still what Wilt did, nobody's going to do. Who's going to score 100 points, average? What did he average?
50.4 points.
Yeah, it's ridiculous what Wilt did. And nobody that saw him gets to vote now. They've all passed on. Wilt has passed on. So, I think you're going to have to stop it in errors, and then maybe people will get it. Be a little bit more correct in how they assess these things.
Yeah, and I tried. I don't want to be that guy who says, get off my lawn, but it feels like I'm speaking up for guys who people missed out on because I got to see everybody but Bill Russell play. And, I was there in Cincinnati at the Cincinnati Gardens, Cincinnati Royals. I got to see those, Maravich when he came in, when you came in. Run down the list of these great players, and I just say, you have no. Oscar played with the Royals; they were horrible, and then he got to Milwaukee, and then people go, "Oh, okay, Oscar, he won a title." They. I don't know. We pick and choose on what is great now, and we tend to. I had somebody arguing with me the other day about Rick Barry's greatness, and I said, "God, you had to see him play. Like Rick Barry with that Golden State Warrior team, that was not a good team, but it was a team, and Rick Barry was awesome back then."
Yeah, he was.
But I had somebody say, "Well, Draymond Green is better than Rick Barry," and I go, "Exactly." I said that. I reacted the same way, Kareem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People have no idea of what guys did. So, you're just talking to people who can't relate to what happened before them.
Yeah, and I know there's always this competitiveness, and yours was probably hidden a little bit more, but I have to believe there's every part of you that says you're as impactful or better than anybody else who's ever played the game.
I think so. But, if you got time to argue, I don't.
I'll continue to argue on your behalf. I actually saw the first time you played Bill Walton in a preseason game.
You saw that game?
At the University of Dayton.
Okay.
And I remember, because I loved Bill. I thought Bill was as true a team center as I'd ever seen, like understanding the game. And I was like, he had his long hair and the bandana. And I remember it didn't go that well for Bill. That maybe it was like when you faced Chamberlain, but Bill got roughed up a little bit there. Do you ever talk to him about your meetings, your head-to-heads?
No, I don't. I want to talk to Bill about it because he always starts crying about how he was embarrassed and stuff. I wasn't trying to embarrass him. I was just trying to win, do what I could do to help my team win.
Yeah, but he has such praise for you, and rightfully so. But
well, thanks, Bill.
Yeah. Although I think he dunked on you that one time in the playoffs, and when they won the title, and Bill likes to bring that up.
Well, that's one for Bill, and I had a few. So,
how are you feeling, by the way, with the corona?
I feel very well, thank you. And I'm involved in a new technology now that enables me to send messages to people and do celebrations for them. It's working pretty good. If you want to know anything about it, go to iconogram.com and you can see what's keeping me up at nights.
And that's spelled ICONOMY.
No, ICONOGRAM, iconogram.
Oh, so I got economy.com as well. Here is
economy.com.
Okay. Want to make sure I got that right.
For messages, you want me to do a message for you, celebration, weddings, birthdays, graduations, I can do all of that.
Are there there's no hardware in the background there. If I walk into the house, do I know what you do for a living or did for a living? No. No hardware.
No.
No jerseys.
Well, my room where I have all my baseball stuff and all the stuff that's important to me. Like Willie Mays signed a uniform for me. And gotta have that.
You probably have more baseball memorabilia than basketball memorabilia. Is that correct?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah,
I do.
I
have certain things. Yeah.
What's your prized possession aside from the Willie Mays autographed jersey?
No, my prized possession is the 1955 World Series of baseball. That has phony signatures on it. It has a couple of phony signatures because the club attendant used to
Gents, today is National Leave the Office Early Day. Official. According to my pals of the National Day calendar, June 2nd, unless it's on the weekend, leave the office early day. So it got me to thinking. I think I pitched this before, but I've tweaked my model here. I'm going to give you a choice, but I want you to, you could choose between two schedules. Let's say you have a 40-hour-a-week type job, a 9 to 5. You're a 9 to 5 person. You work Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. You could either work 5, nice job here, 5 on the backside, right? But 5 days a week. A short work day, 5 days a week. Or 4 days a week, 8 hours a day. A normal schedule, 32 hours a week, but Friday's completely off. Save your answer. That means don't say it now. Gents, today is National Leave the Office Early Day. Official. According to my pals of the National Day calendar, June 2nd, unless it's on a weekend, leave the office early day. So it got me to thinking. I think I pitched this before, but I've tweaked my model here. I'm going to give you a choice, but I want you to save your answer for the next segment. I want you to think about this. You could choose between two schedules. Let's say you have a 40-hour-a-week type job, a 9 to 5. You're a 9 to 5 person. You work Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. You could either work 5, nice job here, 5 days a week, 5 hours a day, 25 hours a week. That means, so you go in at 9, you're done at 2. So you're home by 2:30. No traffic on the backside, right? But 5 days a week, a short work day, 5 days a week, or 4 days a week, 8 hours a day, a normal schedule, 32 hours a week, but Friday's completely off. Save your answer. That means don't say it now. Again, to recap.
Not even close.
Save
I'm saving my answer. It's not even close.
5 days a week, 5 hours a day, 9 to 2.
Did maybe the person who made this graphic could come in an extra day,
or they've already taken the day off?
Yeah.
Tighten it up a little bit.
So wait, what are our choices again?
Now, a lot of people don't know this. You probably know this, Dan, but Larry Bird was one of the biggest trash talkers in basketball. And a lot of people say, really? You know, they thought it was Reggie or Charles. Larry Bird talked more trash on the basketball court than anybody I've ever played against. And he told me two things one game. You know, our rotations, double teaming Kevin McHale, always had to rotate to the corner, and Larry Bird was the one shooting it. You know, so he shot one, and I mean, I'm trying to block this shot, and he would just tell me, Scott, you're a little too late. You know, a little too late. So we playing him, in the last play, he says to James Worthy, he says, you guys don't have to worry about it. I'm going to go right over there that corner. He said, they're going to set a screen for me. We're taking the ball out. He said, I'm going to curl right over. And he's telling us to play. He's telling us to play before they even take it out. He said, I'm going to go right over to that corner, and I'm going to catch it, and I'm going to shoot it, and I'm going to tie the game or win the game, whatever the case may be. They take the ball out, and I think it was either Danny or
DJ,
the late, great DJ.
Yeah.
Take the ball out, the man curl right to the corner, caught the shot, shot a three,
and
game over. It's like, are you effing kidding me? This is my Larry Bird story.
Bird used to tell people, I remember he told me a story about Xavier McDaniel.
He
said,
the X-Man, yeah.
X, I'm going to get the ball right here. I'm going to shoot a jumper right in your face. And then he got the ball and shot it right in his face.
Yeah.
And Bird says to X, I told you I was going to do it.
I like your accent. I like it. That's pretty good. But that was Larry. I mean, Larry would just, and he was saying in such a calm way that you didn't think it was trash talking, but it's trash talking. You're not going to tell me you're going to go over there and shoot the ball in my face. That's trash talking. But he would tell you before the play even started. He just come out and say, guys, you ain't got to worry. This is where the ball going. I'm going to catch it over here. And he would tell you to play and catch it over there and shoot it.
It's always great to talk to Kareem. He has so much history, so much wisdom. But I don't know if he's ever told that story before, the first time he met Muhammad Ali. He's on Sunset Boulevard, and he's walking down Sunset. So first of all, here's Kareem, who's freshman year at UCLA. So he's 7'2", walking down Sunset. Muhammad Ali might be the most famous athlete in the world. He's doing magic tricks on Sunset. I don't know what would look stranger, 7'2" walking on Sunset, or there's Ali doing magic tricks. But Ali was so playful, and it really took any premonition you had about him or preconceived idea, it always took that away. Because you were like, oh, draft dodger, or I don't like him, or he makes fun of people. He made fun of Joe Frazier, like all of these different things about Ali that people didn't like. And then you meet him, and he had this ability to just make you laugh. And he was a little kid. And his wife, Lonnie, and I had the opportunity of being around him before he lost the ability to speak, and then a few times after. We were at the ESPYs. I was at a Mike Tyson boxing match, and he was there. That presence is different than any other presence of any other person I've ever been around. And I've been around quite a few people, famous people. Nothing compared to Ali. Nothing. But I wonder who is this singular voice now through all of this. And I'm talking about representing the African-American community. Who is that singular voice? Because we've had those voices before, but it doesn't feel like you have that singular unifying voice. Or when that person comes to town, things change. People listen. I don't know if it's Barack Obama. I know he had a statement a couple of days ago, but I don't know if he's going to be out in front of this, wants to get involved in this. But I don't know who that singular voice is. But it feels like down through history, we've had at least one of those voices. I also mentioned this earlier in the show. The smaller market teams are urging the NBA to include the entire league in the restart. Paulie, would you check the teams, let's say, or McLovin, from 22 down to 30? How many of those are small market teams? Because the NBA is moving towards a plan of inviting 22 teams to restart this season. Now, this is what I'm told. The smaller market teams, they are facing inequities. 9 months without basketball, you'd go from March to probably December. And what that impact would have on sponsorship, selling tickets, developing players, could be a really damaging point of the year and of the season for some of these franchises. But the New York Knicks are not a small market team. How many of these would you designate small markets here that we're talking about?
Again, these are teams that didn't make the playoffs but are not as now playoff eligible. We would consider small market teams. I would think Portland, New Orleans, Sacramento. San Antonio is a huge market.
But Portland and Sacramento, or Portland and New Orleans are going to make the playoffs
under the new format.
I'm talking about from 23 on down.
23 on down would be like Golden State, Minnesota, Phoenix, Cleveland, Atlanta, Detroit, New York, Chicago, and Charlotte.
Okay, that doesn't make sense then.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking, do the Knicks make it?
No, unlikely.
Okay. When I think of small market, I think of Memphis. But Memphis is in the playoffs. New Orleans is going to get in the playoffs. Chicago's not small market. New York's not small market. Detroit's not small market. Golden State's not small market. Like, I'm confused with this.
Unless they believe everything besides New York and L.A. and Golden State is small market. I don't know.
No, I don't think Golden State's small market.
Right.
I don't think so. Let's see. Greg in Illinois. Hi, Greg. What do you have for me today?
Hey, Dan. Great interview with Kareem. He's a real treasure.
Thank you.
My question for you is about Kaepernick in the NFL, and it's just: do you think in an honest, private moment, Roger Goodell and the NFL would change how they handled that situation right now? And that's it.
Oh, I don't know. It's hard to speak for the NFL when it comes to these things. Their bottom line, it's just that's their bottom line. It's money. And these owners didn't want to have anything or anyone who could interfere with that. Colin Kaepernick deserved to play in the NFL. Now, you might say he's not a great quarterback. Okay. But he got blackballed. Remember all of those excuses? Remember he was on the diet? Oh, he's on a new diet. He's losing weight. Like, we had all of these different excuses as to why Kaepernick was not being allowed to play, invited to play. I thought the Ravens were going to sign him a few years ago, and I thought Seattle was going to sign him as well. I thought that was maybe a possibility there. Because it has to start with ownership, has to start with that person saying, I'm willing to take the heat, because you will take the heat, certainly in today's political climate, if you bring in Colin Kaepernick. But Kaepernick is not playing football again. But for the NFL or a former NFL employee to come out and say, Minnesota should hire him now, sign him now, that's the wrong answer. Because now you're only doing it for a gimmick. This isn't based on ability. This is based on, hey, can you help us out with what's going on with this social climate? Hey, this will fix everything. Hey, Kaepernick in Minneapolis? Yeah, that'll work. We'll move on from George Floyd. Kaepernick's window of opportunity is passed. We'll take a break. One more hour to go. Get your phone calls. More phone calls coming up. Update the poll results as well. Seton Pauly, Fritzy McLevin, yours truly here on The Dan Patrick Show.
So, guys, you know how teams, they put out like a poster for the fans with the upcoming schedule of the season? It's kind of a thing people collect. They put it on the fridge like a magnet, or they put it in their workshop, and it's kind of a cool thing that teams produce. They've done it for years. The Bears did a throwback one last year. So, like an old Monsters of Neighborhood. Yeah, kind of cool. This one I saw from last year. This is University of Michigan football. That's gorgeous. You know, the helmet with the reflection. Here's the one my Maine Black Bears football squad is considering. You may remember this picture from a previous pithy look-in that I put out there. Here is the consideration of the Maine Black Bears football schedule. All I know is they better print a lot of these.
Yeah.
Because I'm buying 2, and I don't even live in Maine.
I would have put the schedule maybe around his belly there.
Yeah, okay.
Like
well,
it's
not produced yet.
There's room.
There's room. There's room for improvement. But I don't really
stretching to go with like the stretch marks. I see what they're doing there.
Easy.
It's a little
Easy.
neat.
Wow.
I'm not one to talk.
Yeah, I was going to say. There it is. But this is not official that they're going with this. I think they put it out there.
Oh, okay.
But again,
just to sort of float it out there, see
yeah,
the reaction.
Trial run. But
I would put that on my refrigerator.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to show the
as a reminder to not open the refrigerator.
What happened to the Kentucky hockey with what's her name with the jersey on? One of our favorites, the guest
Ashley Judd.
Ashley Judd.
Nice.
Good old days.
What?
Good to have you back.
She was wearing like a Kentucky hockey jersey.
Kentucky has a hockey team? I didn't even know that. Yeah.
They don't.
Oh.
But she was wearing a jersey. Wasn't it a hockey jersey?
They don't have a hockey team.
Anyway.
Thank you.
It was an Ashley Judd schedule poster, something Kentucky related. We didn't cut this part out.
Maine Black Bears.
Is it time for a cookie? Is it time for the cookie? Hi, with your new bandana? Ooh, I love that. Can I get that? How are you? Can you come up here? Good girl. Hi. Okay, you ready? Are you ready? And then that's it, she's gone. Okay. I know where I stand with you. Good girl. Good girl. You know what I'm thinking? Do I have a little extra time here? You know what I'm thinking? Maybe somebody deserves another cookie? Who would like another cookie? Oh, look who showed up. It's Penny. Sit. Good girl. Ooh, that was impressive. Good girl. All right, now go to sleep. Buckle up, boys. Time to go to work.
Welcome to the Dan Patrick Show.
Good morning. I dropped the bombshell about 10 minutes ago. I said Ulysses S. Grant, that his middle initial was not S.
The foremost authority on phony middle names and sports.
When he applied to West Point, S was his mother's maiden name. Somehow Simpson got onto the application. When he graduated from West Point, it was on his graduation paperwork, and he just went by Ulysses S. Grant from then on.
When people call me Aloysius, I turn around.
Broadcasting from the Mercedes Man Cave.
I don't even know what your middle name is.
Aloysius!
This is Dan Patrick.
Final hour on this Tuesday, Dan and the Danettes, Dan Patrick Show. We're going to get to the bottom line with baseball, the true bottom line about how much money the owners could be losing with this abbreviated baseball season. Spent some time with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar last hour. Always great to talk to Kareem. You know, there's a competitive side to him, but you usually don't see that. But when I said to him, look, did it bother you when you weren't named the greatest college basketball player of all time and Michael Jordan was? And he said, nah, wasn't bothered. It's just wrong. And he's correct. I mean, it's a fact. Kareem is the greatest college basketball player of all time. And then he talked about Bill Russell. Wes Unseld passed away, the Hall of Famer. Kareem had played against him. We talked about a variety of things, obviously with what's going on in Minneapolis. Had some things to say. And he was involved. You go back to the race riots in 1968. He was there when Jim Brown and Muhammad Ali, they had this sports forum where, they met with the media. And, we talked about really the legacy of Muhammad Ali. And there are so many different levels to Ali. His voice, even when he didn't have a voice, he still left an impact on these athletes today. And I really do believe 4 years ago tomorrow, when Muhammad Ali passed away, there are a lot of athletes who were probably introduced to Muhammad Ali, the person, for the first time. And the reaction to his death was really remarkable, that a lot of the younger athletes saw what Ali did and what he stood for and stood up for. And I think that has changed some of these athletes. most notably LeBron James. LeBron James is not afraid to say what he thinks, to be out there, and I have admiration for that. Because when we tell them to shut up and dribble, you're telling them to be selfish and not think as a person, just as an athlete. And I think you've seen that with Dwayne Wade. You've seen that with Chris Paul. And you've seen that with other athletes, not just NBA players. NBA is still trying to figure this out of when they come back, how they come back, how many teams are involved in all of this. And they'll figure it out. I don't need 22. I don't need all 30 teams. I think 16 would be enough, but it feels like they're going to do 20 to somehow, some way get Zion Williamson into the postseason. Now, it's not going to be considered the postseason for the 16 through 20 teams. Those are play-in. When you make the tournament, you don't make the tournament until after the play-in game. You're not in the tournament. But these teams won't be considered playoff teams until they actually get into the actual playoffs. There'll be play-in games, but not to be confused with the playoffs. McLovin, you got a poll question for me?
So we started the first couple hours with, are you okay with MLB permanently going to 14 games if they do it this year? And 60% say no. I think we should put back up that NBA poll. Are you better off? Would you want to see 16, 20, 22, or 30? What do people want to see?
I don't know. I think they just want to see anything right now. I just don't think we need all 30 teams in there. But the big concern is you're going to have franchises stagnant from March until December, because I do believe that's when we'll start next year's season. And that's a long time. And I think what they're saying is, can we get together? Can we showcase? Can we get our younger players out there? Because most of these teams probably have a lot of younger players who aren't making the playoffs. But this isn't about smaller markets, because you got Detroit and Golden State and New York, Atlanta. These aren't small markets. Yeah, McLovin.
If I'm like a 9-year-old kid who loves a team, even if they're not in the playoffs, I want to see them come back here for something, even if it's symbolic, you know. And you mentioned young players in development. It does seem there's reasons, aren't there, to bring everyone back?
Yeah, but I'm also looking at the more players, the more potential risk here. And if you want to get the season, all it takes is, let's say somebody from Chicago tests positive, or the Knicks test positive. Leave it to the Knicks. They'd have somebody testing positive. That'd be the only thing positive about the Knicks. But if that happens, then all of a sudden, what does that do to Orlando? As long as you got testing in place, let's just get through this season the best we can. And that would mean if you want to have 20 teams, great. And then you have play-in games, great. And then let's just move on. Try to get a so-called full season out of the way. We talked about baseball, with where baseball is right now. Is it going to be 50 games? Is it going to be 114? That's the difference between the owners and the players. Maybe you settle somewhere around 80. I do think we'll have baseball. It's just a question of how everybody gets paid. All the details that we don't really care about. All we want to know is, when do you start and where? And can I go watch? That's really what we want to know. But I did want to know, are the owners telling the truth? Because the players are painted in a negative light here. They're the greedy ones. Hey, I'm not coming back unless I get paid. They're the ones on the front lines. They're the ones that have to come back and play. The owners just have to provide all the safeguards or best they can. Players actually have to come back and play. But I wanted to, I saw an article on 538, that website, and Neil Payne is going to join us. And there was a lot of information in there. And I came away saying, maybe the owners aren't being completely honest here, go figure, about how much money they're going to lose with this. Because I get the feeling, somehow, some way, those owners are still going to make some money. Here was another story, and it may not be a big story to you today, but it will be a big story. Clemson wide receiver Justin Ross, he made a splash on the national scene. That was 2 years ago. Had a good freshman year. That national title game against Alabama, he had 153 yards receiving and a touchdown. Clemson won the national title. Great sophomore year. Expected to be a first-round pick. He got some bad news this week. He expected to be a top 10 pick. He got a stinger that he suffered right before the program shut down in March. They found that he was born with a congenital fusion in his spine. He will have surgery this Friday, and his football future is really unknown. And this is a great player, great college player, that's for sure. You know, players are always risking something for their health, but a spine injury, that's amplified. You know, this isn't a knee, hamstring. He's going to have to sit out an entire year, and then he would probably have to come back to Clemson, maybe to sort of reestablish himself. I mean, it might be a case of, you know, he works out for people. He would be eligible to go to the NFL even if he sits out that year. But Justin Ross would probably be the first wide receiver off the board. Big kid, talented, roughed up Alabama in the national title game, but spine injury, something that he was born with, is going to keep him out of action here for this upcoming season. Yeah, Paul.
You know, there's been a lot of athletes who got injured, and you said Todd Gurley with his knee, Willis McGahee knee. Was it Sam Bradford had a shoulder his senior year? But it just seems like a whole different ballpark.
There are a couple of football items that I saw. Peter King put out his power rankings. Now, I normally don't acknowledge these things, but Peter King says the Patriots are 21st in his new power rankings. So that caught my attention. And I guess he's basically saying, you know what, this comes down to Jarrett Stidham. I'm just not sure how good he's going to be. Which is okay. He's got the Dolphins ranked higher in his power rankings than the Patriots. How about that one? I think it just sunk in with McLovin.
The Miami Dolphins?
Yes.
That's the only one.
Yeah. Peter King has the Bills ranked 13th, the Dolphins ranked 19th in his power rankings. So that caught my attention there of New England. And should Buffalo be better? Probably so. Here's the other thing. People are looking at odds for the MVP, and now we think, well, there's that second-year MVP. Mahomes did it. Lamar Jackson did it. Now they're trying to troubleshoot and go Kyler Murray, Josh Allen, and you're seeing a lot of money go on these two players. Their second year, can they make that leap? Now, you got to be good. Your team has to be good for you to win the MVP. Lamar Jackson's team, they have 13 wins. You know, Mahomes putting up 50 touchdown passes, but they were good. I don't know if Josh Allen statistically is going to put up great numbers. You know, because you're going to have to compete passing-wise with Mahomes and running-wise with Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson's going to throw the ball a little more, run a little bit less. What's Mahomes do for an encore? Kyler Murray is intriguing because he got DeAndre Hopkins. Now the team is a little bit better, but they're probably, they're not as good as the Niners. They're not as good as Seattle. They might be even with the Rams. I don't know if he can win enough to be MVP. Josh Allen, if you win the division, are you putting up impressive numbers? Because you can't win this with just, I'm the quarterback of the best team with the best record in the AFC. That's not going to happen. I would still go, I'll take Patrick Mahomes, and I'll let you have everybody else. Can you check and see where Peter King has Tampa? They're probably are they a top 5 team?
They're the 5 spot.
No.
A 7-9 team.
7-9 from last year.
Yeah. They lost a quarterback who threw 30 touchdowns, bringing in an old guy.
Yeah, but they also had a guy who threw 30 interceptions. Yes, McLovin.
I'm looking at the second-year MVP. Before Mahomes, it was Tom Brady, Matt Ryan, Cam Newton in his 5th year, I think. Fourth year, Aaron Rodgers, Peyton Manning, all old QBs.
Yeah, that's not happening. Josh Allen's not winning the MVP this next year. Just not.
But the Bills hype has to scare Buffalo fans, right? They've been second-class citizens in that division forever, and now everyone expects them to win it?
Now, I'm looking at Pro Football Focus. It says 4 of the past 5 winners had odds longer than 30-1. But this is based off of a second-year quarterback making that leap like Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes did.
The story is about why that bet is not necessarily as safe as people think. Saying second year, historically, the second year guys have not done that well.
Now, Carson Wentz was leading candidate as the second-year quarterback. He would have won the MVP in 2017.
You're right. That would have been the third guy.
So you would have had 3 in a row there. I just don't know if you have. Kyler Murray quietly had a good year. Josh Allen at the end of the year, certainly interesting. He's fun to watch, but I just don't know if he's going to put up great numbers there. Yeah, McLevin.
Yeah, what about the Sam Darnold? Any chance he'll blow up?
I just don't think they're good enough.
And I know these are third-year guys, but Baker?
Well, Baker could. I guess if you were looking, I don't know what his odds are. Like Dak Prescott's odds are pretty high for him to win the MVP. I mean, high in a good way. I think he's third. Is he the third? His odds are the third best to win the MVP this year, I believe. I would think Russell Wilson Jr. the third at some point is going to win an MVP.
Can't get it. It's too late. His window's over. Yeah. Russell Wilson cannot win an MVP, and you know I'm a big fan. He averages 35 touchdowns a year and 10 picks, runs for 600 yards.
Yeah.
He does it every year. He's not going to throw 50 touchdowns on that team.
Yeah.
He can't win it.
Yeah. He might win one of those. You know, they give the Oscar to somebody, like it's a career Oscar.
Paul Newman, Color Money?
Yeah.
Yeah. Paul Newman, Color Money.
Yeah, but I'm talking about after the fact. If you didn't win it, and then they no, not when you're dead, but when your career is over, they give you an Oscar. It's like
your career is dead.
Yeah, career's dead. I was talking about Colin Kaepernick and this ridiculous idea of what former NFL exec said in a column that he wrote, Joe Lockhart. Hey, the Vikings should bring in Colin Kaepernick. Yeah. Ceremonial signing for Colin Kaepernick. What if Colin Kaepernick comes in and wants to kneel in tribute to George Floyd? I don't think the Vikings are going to be cool on that. Here's some numbers on Kaepernick. Among those who qualify in NFL history, touchdowns to interception ratio, Colin Kaepernick is 6th all time in NFL history, touchdown to interception ratio. 72 touchdowns, 30 interceptions. Now, he's not my ideal quarterback. He was Lamar Jackson before Lamar Jackson from the standpoint of what he could do and how he could do it. But there are a lot of quarterbacks who are worse than Colin Kaepernick. If I bring him in, I got to bring him in to start. I'm not bringing him in to be a backup quarterback. And if I'm Colin Kaepernick, I don't want, hey, you're going to give me a ceremonial job here? But there's too much baggage to bring him in if he's not going to be your starting quarterback. Because if he plays well, it's like when Michael Vick got signed after coming out of prison. Remember? We talked about it. Like, who's going to sign Michael Vick? And Andy Reid, Tony Dungy reached out to Andy Reid and co-signed for Michael, and Andy decided to bring in Michael Vick. And Philadelphia is not an easy place to play, even when you don't have baggage. And they brought in Michael Vick, and he somehow resumed his career. It feels like Colin Kaepernick is more toxic than Michael Vick. But Michael Vick was 3 years younger than Kaepernick is right now. So when Mike came out of prison, he was 29. Kaepernick at 32, with a guy who uses his legs as much as his arm. I was also keeping an eye on some of the comments about Cam Newton. Ron Rivera, Cam's former coach in Carolina, he was asked about Cam Newton. And Ron Rivera basically said what I think a lot of coaches and GMs and scouts are saying. Until we see him in person, we're just taking everybody's word. And I thought when Washington didn't bring him in, but they brought in Kyle Allen, that told me a little bit about Cam Newton and his health. Because if he's healthy, then he's going to want to play. He's going to want to start. I don't think that he's going to come in. I don't think he's wired to be a backup quarterback. There's certain guys who understand it. Like, okay, this is what my job is. I'm going to be a backup quarterback. That's not Cam Newton. I can't bring him in unless I feel like he's going to start. Yeah, McLovin.
There was a narrative earlier in the offseason that this is the year to have a backup quarterback in case some test positive for corona and miss parts of games.
Oh,
I don't know
really?
you've seen a lot of shiny backup quarterbacks, a lot of high-end backup quarterbacks, Nick Foles and
Andy Dalton.
Like, maybe it's a year to bring in Cam. Maybe even if you're a really good team, like you've mentioned the Seahawks. Like, I don't know. Like somebody who's secure and just in case, if you think you can win a Super Bowl, that's a terrible reason not to win it because you didn't want to sign Cam.
Well, Russell never gets injured. Dak Prescott doesn't get injured. But if you're going to bring him in, I mean, that's great insurance for Russell. But I just can't imagine that Cam's going to go, let me come in for $1 million to be a backup here. He in his heart has to believe he's better than Russell Wilson. Like you're Cam Newton. How many players does he acknowledge are truly better than him at that position? If he was on, I would say, how many quarterbacks are better than you? And I wonder if he would say anybody was truly better than him. Each of the last 7 MVPs in the NFL has come from a team that won its division. The last MVP who came from a team that did not win its division was not a quarterback. It was Adrian Peterson in 2013.
Stat of the day, stat of the day, stat of the day, stat of the day. Here comes that
what?
Stat of the day.
But that was a great story. Came back after blowing out his knee and rushed for 2,000 yards. How many more yards? Like, how close is he to making it really interesting? If he didn't get suspended or injured, he's threatening. He's knocking on Emmitt Smith's door. Yeah, Paul.
He would be probably past Emmitt Smith if he played every game of his career. Adrian Peterson's at 14,200 yards. And I did the math on this a couple years ago. I think he's missed 31 NFL games due to injury and suspension. He averages 87 yards an NFL game. So you're tacking on a 3,000 easy. So he would be at 17,000 and a half yards if he just played.
Nobody's catching Emmitt Smith. Not in today's NFL. Just not happening. Can you stay? How long are you going to play? How much does it cost to have that running back on his second contract with you? Do you want to spend the money on that position? And then the number of touches you get when it comes to running is going to be cut in half because it feels like teams are going with a couple of running backs and the number of balls that you're catching out of the backfield as well. Frank Gore where can Frank end up?
Frank Gore right now is at 15,003, and he ran for about 600 yards last year. Let's say he plays one more season and gets 500 yards. The worst I think he could be is third all time.
And nobody can name a signature run or moment for Frank Gore. Yes, McLovin.
I'm looking for the youngest active highest guy. I got Ezekiel Elliott at 115, 5,400 yards. He's 24. He's like the only guy under 30 in the top 120. You're right. There's no one even coming close.
Yeah, that's going to stand for a little while. Yeah, Paul.
But Zeke's numbers are fantastic. He's averaging 96 and a half yards a game for his NFL career. That's one of the top 5 starts of all time.
Yeah, he benefits from having an offense, a great line, and an offense that's going to be probably one of the top in the NFL. But I just don't know if you're going to load up Zeke Elliott the way they did those first couple of years in the NFL, and he's a 1,500 to 1,800-yard rusher. Yeah, McLovin.
Would Barry Sanders have run away with this record if he had kept playing?
Yes. Yeah. Imagine you're so good that you just say, I don't want to play anymore. I'm tired of losing. And he was never injured. He was a different running back. There's always generational. O.J. Simpson was Jim Brown first, and then it was O.J. where I went, wow, that's something completely different. Then you saw some other running backs in there. Barry Sanders was one of those where you go, there's nobody like that. No one ever got a good hit on him. And he didn't have one all-pro offensive lineman, I think, in his entire career. I think he had one all-pro on offense with him, and that was Herman Moore, wide receiver. Yeah, Paul.
Barry averaged 100 yards a game for his career, 100 even. He finished with 15,300 yards. If he played 2 more years with average Barry Sanders seasons, 1,500 yards a game season, he'd be at 18 and a half. Yeah, which is right there with Emmett. And then he'd only been 32.
But he doesn't care. I said, you ended up with 99 touchdowns. Don't you want to go back? He goes, why would I do that? He is the most unique athlete I've ever been around. No athlete I'd ever been around thought the way Barry did. And that's saying a lot. He was so selfless. He just didn't. He was like, all right, whatever. I don't care. Hey, you can win the rushing title against Christian Okoye. That's okay. I don't want to go back in. Let my backup get some touches here. All right, let me take a break. We're getting to the bottom line of baseball and the owners and this cry for poverty. We'll check in with Neil Payne from 538. He had some really good information yesterday on this, and I wanted to bring it to your attention. We'll talk about that coming up next year on The Dan Patrick Show. So I can't throw out the first pitch, just so you know. Yes. Yeah. But I was going to have one of the Danettes. Is that fair enough? And I can go into the hat, and then whoever I pull out has to do it? Okay. How about you pick out 10?
I can't look. I can't look. I can't look.
Fritzy.
Todd Fritz, first pitch.
If I said you could back out.
No, I don't want to back out. I'm more excited than nervous. I just don't want it. I don't want it to be a total
The
disaster.
good news is that nobody will actually be able to see the first pitch because they're going to be like holes.
What is that?
Wearing very obnoxious sneakers.
This afternoon's ceremonial first pitches. First to the mound, Mike McCourt. One of the Danettes, Todd Fritz, on behalf of the Dan Patrick Show. On behalf of the Dan Patrick Show.
Awesome experience. Thanks to Dan and the Danettes for making it possible. And the group.
Coaching at third base, number
I'm just glad Rusty Shockey, perfect strike.
Buddy, my man. Congrats, Al.
I'll be there in a second, Fritzy. I have to do something with Casey. Fritzy. 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 I'm a bad guy, aren't I? This award-winning program, I don't know if we've won any awards, brought to you by Mercedes-AMG. Be prepared for whatever comes your way. It's the all-new GT 4-door coupe. Life is a race. Visit your local dealership for a test drive today. If you missed any interviews this week or any week from the Mercedes-AMG Man Cave, go to the Dan Patrick Show app. Watch and listen from inside the Mercedes-AMG Man Cave, Mercedes-AMG Driving Performance. Neil Payne, senior writer for 538, previously wrote for ESPN and the New York Times, consulted with for the NBA's Atlanta Hawks. And the latest article, I saw this yesterday, and it said, MLB owners say they could lose $4 billion even if games are played. Does the math add up? I'm not good at math, but Neil is, and he joins us now. Does the math add up there, Neil?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me on, Dan. And based on my calculations, it really doesn't. And it's tough to find a way for it to add up to that $4 billion loss. So what I did was I looked at these estimates that you've probably seen these every year. Forbes puts out for the amount of money that teams make, how they make it. So, gate receipts, but also other sources of revenue, and then how much they spend. And the big bulk of that is on players. And I tried to itemize each of the ways that they make money and try to figure out how much of that would be lost if they had to play games without fans, if they had to play fewer games, and so on and so forth. So right off the bat, the league makes about 40 to 45% of its revenue from just fans coming to games, and not just ticket sales, but also concessions and parking and all of the things around coming to a game. That's all out the window. But that still, in a full season, leaves you with about $5 billion to work with, of which varying amounts will still be almost totally guaranteed when we're talking about TV money, even if you play without fans or even have a shortened season. So when you do the math on it, it starts to kind of look like these claims of a $4 billion loss don't make that much sense.
Are the owners lying a little or a lot here, Neil?
I think so I don't want to accuse them of lying, because I think that there are other people have hinted at this. Even Scott Boras is one of them, have hinted at the loans and the debt that these owners take on with the assumption that teams will appreciate in value and be able to generate ever escalating revenue. They've broken the revenue record who knows how many straight years, including last year. So, there are two ways to look at it. There's a way to look at it as self-contained, playing baseball, money from playing baseball versus how much you're paying the players and other employees. Do you make a profit? And in that case, I think they are not telling the truth when it comes to that. But when you take into account these other things, they may well come out behind on that in the short term. But the big question is, should the players be made to take cuts to their salary to subsidize these investments that the owners didn't have to make. They chose to make or take out these loans. And the owners are getting equity out of this, whereas the players don't get anything in exchange. They don't get interest on the money that they're deferring potentially to allow the owners to see fit to play games.
If I made you the arbitrator, how would you bring both sides together?
Yeah, I mean, I would come to a compromise. It seems like the players want to play more games because for them, especially if they get paid on a per game basis, they get paid more money. It makes sense. The owners want to play fewer games because really they're not making the money from having fans in the stands already, so they don't care to a certain extent because their TV revenue is largely guaranteed, especially if the playoffs are played. Their main focus is getting the playoffs in. It would be a catastrophic situation if for whatever reason, because of the virus, there were no playoffs. Then you'd start to talk about that money to have to give up. So I would come to a compromise where, the players want a 100 game season. The owners seem to want it to be pushed down to maybe 50 games. It seems like a 75 game season where the players give up, maybe they're not paid 50% of their money off of that of what they would expect, but not to ask them to go all the way down to 24%, which was one of the proposals where they were talking about paying Mike Trout, $5 million compared with his usual salary for a half a season worth of games, and they're still even now trying to get them down to 31%. So it seems like some compromise where you let the owners, allow them to play fewer games, but pay them roughly their usual salary or more of their per game salary. And if you have to defer salary into the future, do that, but also work out a deal to maybe have interest associated with that, maybe an escrow account.
How many owners do you think, if you're looking in the financial aspect of this, that don't want this season to come back? Because that's been floated out there, whether it's true or not, and I didn't know if that's a bargaining chip here.
Yeah, I mean, there are probably a few owners that didn't make money last year. And if you look at, the Forbes numbers, they talk about the Baltimore Orioles are in there, the Toronto Blue Jays are in there, the Marlins are in there. And I don't think it's a coincidence that the Orioles and the Marlins actually didn't have much revenue coming from gate receipts because they built deliberately terrible teams and also, sort of cut down their salaries on
What about
payrolls.
Oakland? The Oakland A's feel like that's a tenuous situation.
Yeah, and even according to the public estimates, even the Oakland A's made money last year in terms of net operating income. And again, that is before some of these loans and some of the other financial situation from the owners come into play. So I don't doubt that when you look at that in the equation, you might find owners that are like, look, it's probably not worth it, or at the very least, we're not going to make the appreciation of our team that we would expect in a normal year, which was the basis for investing in this team to begin with. But they have to understand that even in a Major League Baseball team ownership situation, making a profit, especially a large profit or a record-breaking profit every year, is not guaranteed. And there are sort of bigger things at play than just whether or not one season would find them in the red.
I'll leave you with this. What do you think the chances are that we still have what we consider a so-called baseball season?
I think they're high. I mean, I don't know what you would consider so-called, because I think if there is like a 50-game season, it's going to be very interesting in terms of the types of seasons guys have. Some people will probably hit 400. You could see that. And also, will the winner have an asterisk attached to their name more so than maybe some teams we've seen recently, like the Astros, for a different reason. But I think in terms of the odds of them actually having any kind of season, they're still very high, because most of the owners have too much to lose to not play, and the players certainly have too much to lose to not play. There's just too much of a financial interest, and that's before you get into the larger issue of what baseball's future could look like if they go, with the optics of them haggling over money in the middle of a pandemic and a recession if they decide not to play a game when they had the option to do so.
Neil, thanks for joining us. I enjoyed the deep dive on 538. We appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me. It's a real pleasure.
It's Neil Payne, a senior writer for 538. He used to write for ESPN Insider. Yeah, you start to look at the numbers here and you go, all right, they have to come back. But then as McLovin was talking about, the legitimacy of the numbers, there's no other sport that we care more about numbers than baseball. even after the steroid era, we still care about these numbers and somebody's place in history. And imagine if Jacob deGrom wins a third consecutive Cy Young with 7-4 record, which don't say that's not out of the question because we've seen this before with Jacob deGrom. Has he won more than 12 games with either of these Cy Youngs?
11 wins and 10 wins.
Yeah. So if you're playing fewer games and all of a sudden you go 7-4 with a 1.12 ERA, yeah, McLovin.
That would be more like 2-1 because we were doing the math. He might get 10 to 11 starts.
Yeah, Paul.
If you have an 80-game season, you're getting what, 15 starts?
Well, it depends. Starts? I don't know what they're going to do with their rotations. If you have 80 games, how are managers going to manage their rotation here? How many starts are you going to get? You imagine if you go on like a 5-game losing streak, like that you're basically mathematically eliminated from playoff contention. But, do you get to 75 games? Yes. What if there's incentive in your contract about finishing top 5 in MVP? Do you hand out awards? And I mean, there's a lot of things that are thrown in here, but it can be sorted out. It's just they've created such potholes here along the way. There's just such distrust. Yeah, McLovin.
Are you saying that teams would burn out their great pitchers if it's only a 75-game season? Like, remember Strasburg, they had to pull out after. So they do deGrom every 3 or 4 days then. Is that what you're implying?
No, I just don't know if it's more about your starters. Is it more about your like? How are you going to have your pitching staff look with a 75-game schedule? And maybe nothing changes there, but wins are going to be at a premium here. And how often are you putting somebody back out there? Do you have a 5-man rotation? Do you have a 4-man rotation? I'd just be curious about that. All right, we'll take a break. Last call for phone calls, what we learned, what's in store tomorrow. I saw the Traeger grill is fired up back there. And Alan, the IT guy, was out there with some steaks. Anybody know about this?
There are 3 hammer steaks. I don't know if that's the actual title.
They might be. Oh, those might be the ribeye.
Yeah,
those look pretty good. Like those are thick.
Yeah, he needs a spotter to carry.
It's like a cake, like a layer cake or something. It's so thick. All right, he needs a spotter. All right, we'll take a break here. We'll come back, close up shop after this. How good a football player were you? Because sometimes the older you get, the better you were.
Yeah.
Like when you nobody was around to watch or remembers, and then you could say whatever.
I was good enough to be in the NFL. I watched a lot of superstars go home. But in regard to being a Pro Bowl player, I was that in my mind, but it just didn't get there. You know what I mean?
Where'd you go to college?
I went to Western Michigan University.
Okay.
But you got to understand too, it was kind of weird for me because I played defensive end in college, and then in the pros I was switched to linebacker. So it wasn't something I grew up doing. I was just a tremendous athlete that was kind of put into a spot that I really, didn't have an experience. If I had played linebacker all the way from high school all the way through, I think I would have done better, to be honest with you. But
did you ever have a moment in the NFL where you say, that's it right there?
There were several. Like when I was with the Skins and I was backing up Ken Harvey, and I remember he went down, and I went in. We were playing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and I went in and made 3 consecutive amazing tackles. It was awesome. He jumped off the gurney. I'm not kidding you. Ken, he was on his way. He was like, they were partying him off. He just, and he jumped off and ran back in the game. I was like, see, this is what, and it turns out he's literally my best friend to this day. He is my best friend. He's actually coming up to New York to visit me today. But we always talk about that. He was like, the NFL is the kind of place where you wish your best friend got injured. You know what I mean? Like, you want your best friends to really get a concussion, and so you can get your chance.
Yeah.
And totally, he came back in the game, and that was it for me. He was a beast. He was a Pro Bowl player.
Now, who's the biggest name you tackled?
Barry Sanders.
You actually tackled Barry.
I mean, it was one of those things where you get we played against him. You get a touch, and you wait for him to go down, and you touch his foot, and you're like, oh my God. But again, to play against him was an amazing experience. You know what I mean? I came in the NFL in '91, which was kind of wild because I was actually at the game when Mike Utley got hurt. You know, and never walked again, and then the same game, a friend of mine lost the tip of his finger, and I remember I was on the plane on the way home, like, oh my God, this is for real. Like, this is like life and death. You know what I mean? That was a real eye opener for me. It was an old school kind of feel. I mean, we had some guys in the locker room that were smoking. When I walked in the locker room, and they were like, oh, "Yeah, man, you sit down over there, dude." I was like, dude, this dude's playing, and he's smoking at halftime. You know what I mean? That's unimaginable right now.
Cigarettes.
Yeah, cigarettes.
Okay.
Straight cigarettes in the locker room.
Nobody's drinking or anything like that.
No drinking until after the game, but it was totally cigarettes in the locker room. And I was like, holy cow, this is weird, man.
Bucks. Yeah. All right, scoreboard winner is Zach in Wisconsin, 35-87. Clue for 35.
I already know it.
Let me sing it anyway. Babe, I'm leaving. I must be on my way.
Yep.
So what's that?
1935.
Yeah.
Babe Ruth retired.
Yes. And then for 87, Junior Mint. But it's not snack related.
It's
Junior Mint.
Ken Griffey Jr.
June 2nd, 1987, Mariners draft Ken Griffey,
Boom!
#1 overall. And there you go.
Wait, do I win or did
Zach in Wisconsin wins.
Oh!
You get a consolation prize. You get to do one more segment of the live Tuesday edition of the Dan Patrick Show. That's something.
What's your
This is my rollerball James Conn jersey. He was on a Houston, like some biochemical team or something like that, and they wore these big, wild-looking numbers, electronic, and they would take the ball and you have to skate and you kill people on motorcycles around like a.
Oh no, I remember the movie.
Throw the ball through a hole.
Yeah, no, I remember the movie.
So yeah, this was James. I forgot his name in the movie, but he was.
That's not from
six.
the movie. The one he wore, is it?
Yeah, this was. Oh, my overselling. Yeah, he was number 6. He had a really.
Keep this in mind. Hopefully when baseball comes back, let's say you have 75 games. There's talk that baseball rosters will be expanded to as many as 30 players. Maybe a 6 or 7 man pitching rotation. Also, you're going to have less travel, so it'd be possible to have fewer off days to get more games in. It's entirely possible that in an 80-game season, the team's ace would make about 12 to 13 starts. There are going to be teams that are going to have really good pitching staffs because they're going to have 6 or 7 starters. And if your ace is going 11 or 12 starts, Jacob deGrom could win the Cy Young going 5-4. Yes, Paul.
Why would MLB allow the teams to expand rosters, thus paying guys who were in the minors full boat, full salary?
I have no idea.
That seems counterintuitive.
Yeah. Yeah, it does.
Why would you need more players for a shortened season?
I don't know.
Especially when you're losing money.
I know. You don't want to be spending that.
You want to be spending more money to lose more money.
And you're going to be bringing these guys up from the minor leagues, or some of these guys, who would be getting a whole lot less to be in the minor leagues, and you're going to put them up in the major league roster. You have to pay them the league minimum. Blake in Missouri joins us. Hi, Blake. What do you have on your mind today?
Maybe you think, and not so misconstrue what you said, but
No, not good, Blake. Blake, not a good quality there. Not a good quality there. Let me see. I'm not the only one who thought that it was not a good move to have the Vikings bring in Colin Kaepernick. It's basically a PR move. Here's Charles Robinson, Yahoo Sports senior writer, courtesy of Fox Sports Radio.
We spent 3 years with these canards about, it's skill level and he wants to be a starter, or it's his salary demands, or it's this or it's that. And then, Joe Lockhart comes out and goes, no, it was just bad for business. Right. What about talent? Teams didn't want him because they were afraid he'd hurt their bottom line. And so, to bring him in now, it's just another continuation of him being used as, a prop in the bottom line. And I think it would just be the reverse of what happened before. You didn't want to keep him out before. Or you wanted to keep him out before because he'd hurt the bottom line, and now you're going to what? You're going to flip-flop on it because what? It would help your image. He's just a tool at that point. Why would you do that?
Yeah, it's embarrassing. And, here's Joe Lockhart, who worked in communications for the NFL, and this is poor communication. Hey, bring him in. Now we'll give you a chance. And of all the cities we're going to give you a chance in, it will be Minneapolis. And it's just a coincidence. Now, he didn't say it's just a coincidence, but it's just a bad look. You don't want him, but now you need him. Or maybe you need him. Or maybe he could help the situation. What if this is another city? Any other city? You're going to bring him back? It's just Minneapolis is the only place where he can sign. I don't think that was well thought out. Just saying. Not saying, I'm just saying I don't think that was well thought out. Thank you to all the people who realized after I watched the show Outer Banks, they had some other cheesy shows that they thought I might be interested in. Yes, Eaton.
You getting a lot of support?
Yeah.
From the OB fam?
My youngest daughter, was like, I hear you talked about Outer Banks and John B. And I go, yeah. She goes, why would you do that? Why would you admit that? And I go, I don't know.
She has a point.
Yeah, no, she's right.
Fair.
Yeah, she said, why would you admit that? And I go, I don't know. And then Fritzy goes, yeah, my daughter and I and my wife have some shows for you. You don't have them.
They were in the car. She's 15. She's a freshman in high school, and she was excited that you're watching that. She's going to have some other ideas for what you should be tuning into.
Oh, I thought you said she had ideas for me.
She does. I have to get them from her. She didn't jot them down just yet. But
that's a tease.
If you like that show, then she's got a few other shows that her and her friends are watching.
That is the entire show tomorrow.
Well, actually, it's great because the way that sort of Netflix algorithm works is you're just going to be flooded with preteen dramas.
If you liked Outer Banks, you'll like.
Right.
Yeah.
Have you seen Carly's Crew, or who knows? I don't know. I'm just making up a show.
iCarly?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, McLovin.
Riverdale.
Oh, my wife said that. She goes, oh, if you watch that, you got to watch Riverdale. And I go, no, I can't do that.
It's good. It's like critically acclaimed. It's not bad.
It's clinically acclaimed?
Critically. Both.
Is this Archie and Jughead and Veronica?
Right, but like a dark modern version. Luke Perry's in it.
Dark.
Hey, Jughead was always a dark character. He was always brooding and, back in the day.
Archie.
No, they take that and it's honestly super dark. It's like a murder mystery. I'm not kidding.
A hot teen murder mystery.
Exactly. Where do I sign up?
I'm sort of teened out right now with what I've been watching. Like, I got to get back to something a little manlier.
Is there someone building a house in Alaska you can watch tonight?
I was watching Building Off the Grid.
Okay.
Maine Cabin Masters. I'm going to need and usually I'm telling people what they need to watch, but, I've been blowing through Better Call Saul. I breezed right through that. Bosch, Ozark. I never did Tiger King. I did about 30 minutes. I felt so sorry for those animals. I'm like, nope, I am not going to do this. And now we're going to do a TV version of this. Then we'll do a movie version of this. Nope. No, not going to do it.
You're not missing anything at this point. Even just getting through it, I was like, God, this is stupid.
No, I felt sorry for those animals. Those beautiful animals. And then you got these knuckleheads out there. Final results of the poll question, McLevin.
So for the last hour, I put up how many teams should the NBA bring back. 60% say just 16, and then 20, 30, 22.
Well, I got to get Zion in there, so however many it takes to get Zion in there.
Coincidentally, Just 16 is the name of the new show you're going to start watching.
Yeah! Nice. Put a bow on it.
Oh, teen angst. I love it. Why? I don't know why I would watch something that had teen angst in it. I'm so thankful that I'm out of that with my kids. Like we survived.
Yeah.
I got out of that world. There were days when I have 3 daughters, and I had no idea what was going on. One was crying, one was laughing, and one had not really sure if they were going to cry or laugh. Talk about treading water. Treading water with my daughters. They're great, they're wonderful, but there'd be days where I go to my wife, what the hell is going on here?
I'm hearing there's a CW show you might want to check
What?
out called All American. That's available on Netflix.
Okay. Maybe
you should check that out. Andrew, are you familiar with that one?
You haven't seen All American yet?
I'll
There's
give
even a quasi. It's the worst football you'll ever see on TV, by the way. Like actual football.
Oh. Yeah, I don't want a sports-related one. Todd, what did you learn today?
Spring of 1966, Kareem remembers seeing Muhammad Ali for the first time doing magic tricks on Sunset Boulevard.
I love that story. McLevin, what did you learn?
Kareem told this story about a locker room attendant who would fake writing the names on the baseball of the players on the team.
Seton O'Connor, what did you learn?
You can finally let go of that damned ESPN college basketball list. Kareem has given you permission.
Yes! Paulie, what did you learn?
Talk about the greatest college basketball player of all time, Michael Jordan. Kareem said, well, that's wrong.
What we learned brought to you by LegalZoom. No matter what happens, want to make sure your loved ones are taken care of. Set up the right estate plan without leaving your home. Take care of your family today. The right estate plan. LegalZoom.com. LegalZoom.com.